Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 302 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your humble host and the founder of Sifted, and alongside me today to talk about the best and the brightest, and maybe not so brightest, in video games for the week, it's Matthew Kyle. What's up, Matt Kyle?
Best is a strong word for this month.
It really is.
But it's over now.
It is. May cannot disappear soon enough, and April couldn't have disappeared soon enough before that.
Yeah, it's been a rough few months.
It has. We just published Dossier, the 10 games worth buying in June. June is much better. There are probably one or two good games we're going to be able to talk about in every episode of GameFace in June. Plus, we have Summer Game Fest and Microsoft's big E3 press conference coming up here in a couple weeks. June should be much better, and hopefully everything should be better for the rest of the year. That's what I'm counting on anyway. We'll see how it goes. More games could get delayed, although it does look like God of War's coming out this year.
Yeah.
All signs are pointing to it. There's merch coming. They just announced yesterday. Well, actually, it wasn't announced by them, but it was leaked that God of War from 2018 is the freebie this month on PlayStation Plus. Everything is lining up for God of War Ragnarok to actually be released this year, which is a huge relief in this year of delays. Even if it helps you win our fantasy league, I don't care. I need some good games to play, man.
I never had any doubts about God of War this
Yeah,
year.
I did. I mean, after what's happened over the last 3 or 4 months, I think everything's fair game to be delayed at this point. I
mean, it was possible, but I was never worried about it.
Yeah. I would have been if I had the game, but I had it last year. And it didn't come out. So
and I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Even though their trailer said 2021. Can't trust that stuff either.
You can't trust marketing.
I got burned by that 2 years in a row.
Yeah, you got burned by Starfield now.
Now I got burned by Starfield.
Starfield was way more specific than God of War.
It had it actually in the CG of the trailer. It had the date. But anyway, it's been an interesting year so far.
This is going to be like a press event now. It's just going to be like, oh, we dropped a direct about Starfield. That's what we meant.
That was 11. They may actually do something like that.
I guarantee
They may have an event on that date just so they don't look like complete fools.
Yep.
But anyway, we actually have some games to talk about on this episode that we played this week. Video games that we actually played to talk about on GameFace. It's very exciting. Don't know what you got till it's gone. Is that Whitesnake? I can't remember which hair band that was.
No, I don't think so. I want to say that was Skid. That was not Skid Row.
It was one of them.
I can't remember which one. It was all of them.
It was all of them in one. Scorpions, all of them.
Cinderella.
Cinderella,
right.
Is that who it was? I had forgotten about them.
Good work, Toast 9.
Good job. Actually, Wampler knew who it was, too. That's hilarious. That's great. Let's see. Before we get started here today, a couple of housekeeping things. We talked to you last week about our brand new show, New Dimension, that chronicles the industry's biggest franchises transitioning from 2D to 3D. We talked about how it had just gone up for free on our YouTube channel. We asked you guys all to go and at least like the video and then share the video. You guys did that, and that was amazing. Not only did you guys go and like the video, you guys all left comments, and it did absolutely nothing. Nothing. It did nothing. That video earned on YouTube just like all our, and it had more the like percentage was like 99.8%. It had like triple the likes of any video we've ever not any video we've ever published, but most of our videos, more like double or triple the comments of any video we publish, and it did nothing. I am completely flummoxed by YouTube. I have no idea what you have to do to break through.
The algorithm is a fickle beast.
People love the show, by the way. Like, you guys obviously went when we did the show live last week and went immediately and said, this show's great because you guys had already watched it. But over time, as people have just watched the show who are subscribers to our YouTube channel, they all love it too. Everyone's like, wow, it's very hard to find a concept for something that hasn't been done before, and here's something new. It made no difference. It is... I've never come across something as confusing and frustrating as our personal experience on YouTube. You go to these other channels and they have the worst videos. Horrible voiceover, horrible editing, the most rote, overdone, redone concepts. 200,000 views, 175,000 views. I'm just like, what the F?
Well, because they've broken through the algorithm.
How, though?
chance.
How do you do it?
I don't know. Talk to some people that do that for a living.
Matt, I have talked to everybody. I have watched. It's so funny too. People are like, watch this video from this guy who will tell you how to do it. You go and he has like 5,000 views on his video. It's like, well, obviously he can't do it either. I have watched every expert on the YouTube algorithm on YouTube. I have read it all. I've watched it all. I have done it all. Nothing does anything. It's so frustrating. I can't even put it into words. But I do want to say thanks to all you guys who went and did it. And if you're new on the show this week, please go and do it now. It's youtube.com/siftedgames. It is one of the last 3 or 4 videos we've published. Again, it's called New Dimension. If you like it, please like it on YouTube and please comment on it. I mean, that's all we can do, right? There's nothing else we can ask people to do. That's it. It's confounding.
Share it around and post it where you can.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks to everybody who has gone and done that. I really appreciate it. And I don't want to frustrate you guys because I hope that you guys would do it in the future, but I would understand your frustration because I am really frustrated with it as well.
It's always amazing to me, because I have a couple of different Google accounts, and I have one that in particular I use for YouTube, and sometimes it just sort of spontaneously switches to one of the other ones, and I'll notice my recommendations are completely weird.
Really?
Like that, because it doesn't know much about me on the other accounts, right? So it's just sort of randomly throwing like Ben Shapiro at me and stuff. I'm just like, no, why are you? And I realize I'm signed to the other account and it doesn't know it. So it's just sort of like, hey, maybe you like this horrible creature, like. But I never get sent anything like. And it's also weird how like on the one account that I use that I use for YouTube all the time, like there's channels I've watched, like I've found, and then I've watched like tons of stuff they have because I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then like I've watched like whenever a new one would pop up, and then like they just vanish from my algorithm. And I realize like I haven't seen a video from so and so in forever.
To me too.
And I look and I'm like, oh, they put up like 7 things. Why didn't you ever pop that up in my feed? It's just so weird. Like,
have you ever noticed that there are certain videos that YouTube tries to force feed down your throat?
Oh,
it's like, no, you need to watch this. There's this video that is like supposed to be like a documentary about 80s synthwave, and it will not disappear.
I have had
it will not go away from my recommendations. It has been like 8 months, and it still appears every day in my recommendations.
I've always had a video. I watched a few of her. I think it's V Hart is her name. She's like a math person. But and I've for a long. She's been around forever, and I've watched some of her videos once in a while. There is a video she did on hexaflexagons from almost 10 years ago that I have no interest in, but it pops up every day in my feed. I'm like, now at this point, I'm just like, I'm not watching that out of principle at this point. I will never watch that hexaflexagon
I will not watch that synthwave. It's a game.
And I've said not interested, and it comes up like 5 months later. I'm just like, oh, you're going to try me in the hexaflexagons again. I see how it is.
It's a game for me now. I'm like, I'm not watching it. I am going to wait and see how long it takes for that synthwave documentary to disappear from my recommended whatevers. It won't go away. It's like U2's Songs of Innocence. You think you finally figured out how to delete it off your phone, and you're sorting through your music, and there it is again. It's hilarious. Whatever deal U2 signed for that, they did not pay enough, because holy cow, you couldn't ask for anything better than what U2 has got out of that deal with Apple. So anyway, if you could go to youtube.com/siftedgames and give New Dimension a like, we're really banking on that to do something for us and to change our fortunes a little bit. So we'd appreciate anything you guys can do. We are shooting the next round of Pactor Factor here in the next probably 5 or 6 days. Still sorting out the date with Pactor. Look for a call for questions for that going up everywhere very soon. It'll be on Sifted. It'll be on our Patreon. We will put the call out on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/siftedgames. People don't understand. They think we take the questions in a rolling basis. They don't understand that we do it in batches. So almost every time somebody new joins our Patreon,
like you shoot a bunch of them at once.
We shoot a batch of shows at once. They don't understand that. And so every time somebody new joins our Patreon, they immediately ask a question for Pactor Factor. So if you are new to our Patreon and you just recently asked a question for Pactor Factor, you're going to want to do that when we ask for them, and that will be coming up here in the next couple days. There'll be an article on our Patreon, there'll be one on Sifted, and we'll talk about it on Twitter as well. So get ready for that. Start getting your questions ready. What else? And it came in too late for the show, but they did show the first gameplay of Sonic Frontiers today, early this morning. Apparently IGN has a huge exclusive on on everything Sonic Frontiers for the next month. And it shows, I don't know, probably 18 seconds of gameplay or something like that. And it just, like, I had major questions about how they're going to pull this off. And now I have even more. It's like they show scenes of, like, Sonic in combat with, like, an enemy. And then, like, if you look behind them, it's just an empty wasteland. I don't know what's going on with that game. I am really interested to see how they do an open world Sonic game. Do you have any idea how they could make it work, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I think just the featureless plane where you can run everywhere is a bad idea. I would argue that they did something sort of like that in Adventure, where you had the kind of an overworld to run around in, and then like you went into individual levels. My thing for them is like they've been trying to crack the Sonic code for almost 30 years now, certainly since the Saturn days in terms of 3D. I think one of the things they forget is that like. The 3D games, a lot of times, especially the worst ones, really focus on the idea that, like, oh, he has to be going fast all the time. But, like, you forget in the 2D games, like, he doesn't really go fast all the time.
Yeah, there are
like,
times where he's just...
Sometimes you do. Like, but, like, usually you're platforming. Like, some of really hard platforming in some of those games. And, like, generally, like, it's about the design and the contraptions and the ability to choose which way you go. And the speed sections are, like, rewards or, like, treats.
Yeah.
Like, you, oh, here's a section of this level where you can go, like, through the spiral and up through the loop, and now you're back to the platform. So, like, I always feel like, they miss the boat when they try to make it all speed.
I agree.
In part because, they used to, when people would complain, like, how come the whole game in Sonic Adventure isn't like the Sonic levels and the Shadow levels? And Sonic Team was like, yeah, it takes months to make one of those, and you play through it in like 3 minutes.
That is really the problem. Is that you put all this work into it, and then a player plays through it in like 90 seconds. Yeah.
So I think you could probably get. I think and the 2D games, even Sonic Generations, and they remember that, but like that like you don't have to constantly be blazing through everything. I mean, you can if you want to. Like that's kind of a mark of skill in the 2D games is being able to burn through the level as fast as possible, but. Like, if you want to go through and play it like a solid platformer, you can. And, like, most people, I think, did. Certainly when they were younger and didn't know how to speedrun something. I think if you made Sonic more like a platformer, like, with zippy, agile, but, like, make him more of a platformer, and then the speed sections are kind of breaking the, break it up, make it more of a reward, maybe even make it like, if you were doing an open world thing, you could find, like, stuff like shrines in Breath of the Wild, and instead of being a 2-minute annoying puzzle, it could be like a speed section. Like a little roller coaster area kind of thing.
I think that's a great idea.
But, like, I just don't know, if they could crack that code, if they could find a way to make Sonic move fast, but with a more free-form way of doing it, like, I think you'd really have found something special, and so far they just haven't.
Matt, I also feel a little bit like the films have reset the discussion on what Sonic can or cannot be.
Yeah.
Because the films... they have ebbs and flows to them. It's not just action like 24/7. They're a little more thoughtful. There's some downtime. There's some sentimentality in the films. And do you feel like maybe it could have changed the perception of Sonic a little bit to make the games a little more flexible?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I think the idea that Sonic has a character and has a story to tell is sort of a more mainstream accepted idea now that those movies are out there. Whereas I don't think the fandom ever disagreed with. The fandom latched onto the lore and the narrative long ago. And everyone was just like, what? It's like, who cares about it? I just want to go fast, And if you can get around that, you'd probably be able to make something a little more wide appeal. Like, I don't know. I think there's room for that. But I also think, in terms of the games, I think they sort of, Sonic 2006 sort of scared them off the big epic adventure idea. And then every time you sort of tried to kind of come back to a more, character or story focused version of him, you ended up with like Sonic Boom, where Rise of Lyric, where like that game was blatantly unfinished, and that was just it's not like there wasn't something possibly there and it had a TV show supporting it, but the game was terrible. So and not just terrible and like you had a bunch of bad design ideas, it was terrible and like you didn't finish the game. Like Knuckles could fly. Like for you could,
it was busted.
It was really broken, and it just happened, over and over and over again. And now I think the Sonic cycle is well known. Everybody hates the new game, and then they give up on Sonic, and then they show the pictures of the new game, and everyone's like, oh, maybe this one will be good, and then like no, it sucks, and then the cycle starts over
because we want them to be good.
Yeah. And a couple of every once in a while, like Sonic Generations was good, Sonic Colors was good. But I'm talking about 15-year-old games at this point.
Yeah. That's hard to believe that they're that old.
They're up there. Yeah.
Those were Wii games, right? Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nuts. That's how long we've been waiting for a decent Sonic game, people.
Yeah. I mean, Sonic episode 4 was actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
I guess the Sonic Unleashed stuff was pretty good. Like, I didn't like the Werehog bits, but I thought the Sonic parts were good.
Yeah. I mean, Sega can handle making the Sonic parts.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't really fallen down on its face in that regard. It's the rest of the game.
Yeah, what else? What
else are you going to do?
Yeah, what do you package around that?
Yeah.
Is sort of the big question. And, I do think that, Sonic 2006 is nonsense, and the weird thing where he's kissing the princess and all. I mean, a lot of that's very strange. But, like, the biggest problem with Sonic 2006 is that it was the most broken thing I'd ever played. There were load times between text boxes in that game. It was unworkable. Yeah. And like if it had just been if it had been technologically complete, it would have been just sort of like yeah.
Instead,
but like that it scared them off that idea for that was 2006, so we're just 16 years later, and they're kind of trying that again here. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons everybody has that sort of skeptical eye towards this game. Is like, we remember the last time you did that. I remember the Play Magazine review.
Yeah, well, they gave it like a perfect score,
9.5. And everyone's like, "Are you out of your mind?" And then Dave downgraded it to an 8.5 because he said, "Oh, the things they said they were going to fix,
they didn't fix."
I'm like, "You're still not an 8.5 territory." Just astounding.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the latest on Sonic. If there is a blowout between today and the show next week, we'll be sure to cover it next week. As it is right now, literally there's like 15 seconds of gameplay in the trailer. You can check it out. It probably is at the top of your Sift at sifted.net.
Oh, now I remember what I thought you were going to bring up.
Oh.
That wasn't on the rundown was KOTOR 2 on the Switch. Because the interesting thing about it is they're going to provide the community-made Sith content restoration mod as DLC on the Switch, which has never been done before. It's the fan-made thing that restores all the cut content and makes the ending make sense. That you've had. It's been available on PC for a long time, but it's never been available on console, and it's going to be DLC for the Switch version, which is great.
Yeah.
Also, I because of looking into that, I realized that the Switch versions of KOTOR and KOTOR 2 are actually the best console versions because they are the only console versions that are widescreen.
Wow, that's a rarity. Yeah. That the Switch is the best console version.
So if you're going to get KOTOR, get it on the Switch.
Wow. Okay. Before we get going,
until they remake it, then get it on whatever. That's probably a PS5 exclusive, isn't it?
Yep. Before we get going, let's check in with chat. You guys are in here chopping it up. Let's see what you guys got to say. First of all, I want to thank everyone who hooked us up with Twitch Prime while Matt and I have been gabbing here. Wampler13, thank you. Karma Lounge, thank you. That's awesome. Listevid, thank you for the tier 1 subs. What else we got here? Steady Decline, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. What's up, Johnny Hurricane? Corey Film, thank you for Twitch Prime. Darmist, thank you. Who else we got here? A bunch of people. Toast9, thank you. This is awesome, guys. Really appreciate it. Any more? I think that's it for Twitch Prime anyway. Now let's see. Vincent says, what do you think a fully open Mario game would work before Bowser's Fury showed it could? Yeah. I would.
Yeah.
Mario's much more versatile. And we're used to him not just running all the time.
And Mario also runs around in open areas all the time. They cracked that in Mario 64.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Most of the levels in Mario 64 are wide open and you can run. Yeah, so I'm not surprised by that at all. Let's see if there's anything else you guys got going on in here. Doesn't look like it. There's also, Vincent brings up, there's a state of play coming up here in the next couple days. It could have some stuff for next week's show. Toast9, this must be the worst Q2 I've seen. I think you're right, Toast9. I really think it is the absolute worst second quarter I've ever seen in the games
industry.
Definitely
up there.
And Matt and I, we've been through it, man. We've been through a lot of Q2s in this industry, and this one...
there have been some bad Q3s that I would compare to it, but not Q2s.
Yeah, usually Q2 is like banging, man. For what, especially the last 10 years.
Like back in the PS2 days, there were some bad summers. Like there were some bad. Like there was. I remember sitting in those, show meetings trying to think of how to fill 3 shows in a week with what was coming out, and we were doing. That's how we ended up doing some of those PC games that no one else had ever. Like you watch some of the old X plays, and it's like we reviewed that,
or the PSP games, because look, I was the one handling all that stuff, and I'm like, I have to fill 3 shows a week. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? This crappy like Road Rash clone for PSP. Because the other thing too about that show in general was a lot of times those games made the best segments,
right?
Because they were bad and there was awkward stuff in them. Something that
just weird,
our producers could find that they could work with to work together a skit or something.
What was the company? It was a PC game publisher, and they did like kind of B and C list games. And they always came. Was it? It was like a blue logo in like a rec. Was it Encore? Was that a thing?
I mean, Encore was one of them that's gone now.
It was like Hello Neighbor, or not Hello Neighbor.
What did happen to them? Encore.
I don't know, but
they used to put out like 50 games.
Yeah,
a year.
like no matter what was going on, we could trust that Encore had like 5 games like they just sent to you that we got. Like, okay, so we can do Neighbors from Hell 2 or what? Ooh.
Oh no.
The Sifted Sign is a big fan of Encore. They're not happy.
It's like, don't you talk trash about
Encore? Encore? They were nice to us. No, that was I remember. Yeah, I think it was Encore. Like the blue logo with the O was like a star.
Yeah.
Like they always had something. They would put out like weird European shit all day.
There used to be so many more publishers, like BAM Entertainment. Like it would put out 10 or 12 games a year. It's gone now. Like there's. Just
speaking of KOTOR, I'm every time I see a KOTOR thing, for the remake, or the remasters, I'm amazed that like. Aspire used to do the Mac ports of PC games in the 90s. Like I can't believe they're still around.
Somehow, some way. So anyway, that's all the housekeeping for GameFace 302. We're about to get into the heart of the show, but before we do that, here is a word from our sponsor. A once-in-a-lifetime property is now available in Northwest Montana, featuring 92 acres of gorgeous wilderness, approximately 1 mile along the Blue Ribbon, trout-rated Kootenai River, and an eye-popping view of the Cabernet Mountain Wilderness area. This is truly an outdoorsman's paradise. You can use the restored and remodeled barn with living quarters as a year-round home, vacation cabin, fishing retreat, horse ranch, or cattle ranch. Contact Doug DeShazer today for additional pictures, information, and an opportunity to view this very special piece of Montana. And with interest rates starting to rise, now is the time to pull the trigger on a home or property. Even if you're not able to relocate to Montana, worry not, sifters. Doug DeShazer has facilitated home and land sales in California, Texas, Oregon, Washington, and many other states. He can find you the perfect real estate agent for the job, no matter where you live in the U.S. Feel free to contact Doug with any questions regarding real estate at DeShazerMT@gmail.com or give him a call at 406-291-1643. That's 406-291-1643. Thanks as always to DeShazer Ryan Realty for sponsoring GameFace. All right, it's time to get into episode 302. We're going to kick things off with a topic that I think Matt's going to want to discuss. I know I want to discuss it this week. Finally, we got our first look, Matt, at the next Star Wars game from Respawn. Star Wars Jedi Survivor was unveiled at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim. Matt, why was Star Wars Celebration not held on the 5th of May?
Because Memorial Day weekend is when the movies used to come out.
Okay. But now that they've just fallen out of that pattern, they just keep doing it that same week just because?
Because that's when Star Wars came out.
Okay.
That's it. Star Wars comes out the week before Memorial Day. Like
okay.
That's when Star Wars, the first one came out, when all the sequels and all the original trilogy and the prequels all came out that week. So that's when Star Wars Celebration happens. The May the 4th be with you thing is a recent invention. Like that does not have the cultural cachet of the actual release dates of the movies.
Okay. So anyway, Star Wars Celebration, Respawn finally showed off the game proper, although not that much. It's a very, very short teaser trailer. It's about a minute long. Didn't release a whole lot of information about the game either, unfortunately.
Just that it's next year, which I think we knew.
Early next year, too. Mm-hmm. Early next year, next gen only, We knew that already.
Yeah.
It's PS5 and Xbox Series consoles only and PC. So no PS4, no Xbox One. Definitely no Switch, unfortunately, unless they find some kind of a cloud version or a streaming solution for it. Matt, what do you think of this now that we've seen a little snippet of it?
I mean, there's not much to think, really. That's Cal. And I guess he's going to fight a guy.
Who's that?
That's an Inquisitor. That's the Grand Inquisitor.
What's his relevance?
Well, the Inquisitors hunt for Jedi in the times between the trilogies. And so if he's after Cal, it's because, they hunt Jedi and wipe them out. They are
Jedi killers.
Vader's hand.
Is that Raiden from Metal Gear Solid there, Matt?
Nobody knows who that is. That is somebody new. Although they're doing some weird Let's
actually go back and look at that.
I'm not sure who that is. I don't recognize him.
I saw people joking that it was Raiden.
I mean, I've seen mentions of Raiden, but I don't know. They brought in some weird stuff. So there's a in the second episode of Obi-Wan, there's a kid who's smuggled off a planet, and they don't really mention who he is, but it turns out that kid is Corran Horn, who in the old EU was the main character of the X-Wing novels. Hasn't been mentioned in 20 years.
Wow.
The fact that they're bringing him back in is what are you planning? And they're doing, that's how they brought Thrawn back in. They brought all that, everyone's sort of, there are rumors that Cal may show up in Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan takes place in the same year as the first game.
Yeah, that's something people have uncovered is that it's set during the same time period as the Obi-Wan show on Disney Plus that just launched.
Yeah, well, we knew that Obi-Wan's 10 years after Episode 3. This Fallen Order was the same time period. The second sister is the main villain in Fallen Order is in a meeting in a shot from the Obi-Wan trailer. So they're all happening. Solo happens at the same time too. They're all happening kind of this midpoint between the trilogies thing. Yeah, I don't know whoever that guy is. I don't know. I mean, his very
if you
pale,
don't know, nobody
very pale
knows.
complexion and the weird muscle suit makes me think he's some kind of weird Sith thing. Although I guess he could be.
Could be a Jedi.
He could be a Jedi who was injured. He does. The long white hair reminds me a little bit of Sindralig, who is the Jedi weapons master. He was the one who trained everybody in lightsaber combat, and he's based on Nick Gillard. It's Nick Gillard backwards as Sindralig. He was the guy who did all the fight choreography for the prequels.
Okay.
And in fact, he's in the Episode 3 game that the Collective made, if you remember that one.
Yeah, I do remember.
There's a boss battle against him, and he's visually based on the guy who did all the fight choreography.
Whoever this guy is, he's a big deal.
But he had a white silver-haired ponytail, so that's the only thing I can think of.
His character is shown throughout the whole trailer.
Yeah, but
things keep happening, but he keeps being intercut in with the edit.
The guy in the
guy
tank?
in the water, yeah. They keep showing these quick cuts, and then at the end they're it's a dude in this pod or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's either a clone of somebody or he's injured somebody. That could be a bacta tank or he's healing from something. That would explain the suit. Very hard to say.
If you don't know, nobody knows. That's all I got to say, Kyle.
I've seen theories, but I certainly don't know who that is off the top of my head.
Yep. So Stig did do, and he's the producer of the game at Respawn, did do a quick interview with StarWars.com where he shared a little bit of information. He did say that it picks up 5 years after the events of Fallen Order. Cal is accompanied by his trusty sidekick, BD-1. Cal is one of the last remaining Jedi in the galaxy. He must acquire new skills and grow his connection with the Force to stay one step ahead of the Empire's constant pursuit. So it is kind of one of those games where someone is constantly coming for you, trying to find you, always hot on your heels, or hot on Cal's heels anyway. And then Stig said the game is all about survival. That's why it's called Jedi Survivor. They are in dark times, and Cal and his crew are doing whatever it takes to stay alive. That might mean that they are making connections with people that, in other times, might be considered unsavory, which makes me wonder if that's what that character is in the trailer. Some of that is portrayed in the trailer. And again, I don't want to give anything away, but there's definitely a sense of ... I don't want to spoil anything. Sorry. And that's all the information that we got.
I mean, to me, that implies you're ending up in the underworld somewhere. Yeah, I don't know who that. I mean, I guess he also kind of could be. What's his name? Can't remember his name. That would be a deep cut, but it's You remember Empire at War? Like the real-time strategy game, like the big, huge one.
Yeah.
And they did an expansion called Forces of Corruption.
Yeah, I do remember that.
The guy who led the corruption forces in the expansion kind of had like the long white hair like that.
Okay.
And a mustache. I can't remember his name. But maybe. I don't know. They can kind of go wherever they want with it. Although it would be out of character to introduce a new character.
Yep.
They like to bring back stuff the fans know.
Well, it's crazy. BD1, isn't he in Boba Fett, the Boba Fett TV show?
No, that's the droid of that make.
Right.
It's not him, though.
Right, but it's pretty cool that they created something for a video game that now has become canon.
Oh, yeah. Well, everything's canon in the Disney era.
Yeah.
Like, if they make it, it happened. Like, it's not like the old days where, like, oh, you just kind of... the video games are sort of, like, there if you want to... Like, the Fallen Order is canon as, you know,
anything
Obi-Wan.
Else.
Like, this is happening.
It's just... It wasn't like a droid that Disney sent Respawn. Respawn created BD1. Well, and Disney was like, that's cool.
Yeah, we don't know that for sure.
No, Stig said that in an interview. Yeah.
That they made it? Yeah. I mean, they're willing to take...
He said it's the thing he's most proud of the whole thing. His whole career was that he created a droid that was accepted by Disney as canon and is now appearing in other Star Wars properties. Or as you said, it's the same class of droid.
Yeah.
BD-1's great. It's a great character.
Yeah.
It's what I remember the most from this game.
It was definitely the thing that I think made most people like Cal.
Yep.
Without BD-1, I don't think Cal is really much of a character.
Agree. I agree with that 100%. Anything drastic that you want to see changed from the first game to the sequel?
I mean, I'd like to see them tighten everything up in general. Like, I like Fallen Order a lot, but like, I do think, you know, it has a sloppiness to it.
Yep.
Especially in comparison.
It could have stood for another 6 months.
Yeah, especially in comparison to its, like, you know, some of its source material, which is the From games. There's a lot of From software influence there. And I feel like it could be tighter in terms of combat and, you know, and a little floaty in the platforming and all the others. It's just a little tweaks I would make. Also, for God's sake, make the map better. The map is really bad.
If you're going to make a Metroidvania, it better have a good map.
And they need fast travel.
I'd agree.
Like, if you're going to expect me to backtrack and go clean up the level and get all the collectibles and stuff, fast travel. You need to let me fast travel between the meditation points.
Agree, like, 1,000%. Yep.
Going back to play that game a second time was even worse because it's like, oh, I know I'm going to have to go back and do this. And like, and then you hit things where you're like, oh, I should do this now. And you're like, oh, I can't because I don't have the item. It's like, it's not like I'm backtracking because I missed something. I'm backtracking because I literally didn't have the ability to get it yet.
Yeah.
And now I got to go through this whole maze again. And you know, these are big levels. I forget where things are. I get lost over and over, you know, especially in the later ones. And that's not fun. So just let me fast travel back and solve the puzzle and get back to the ship.
I agree with
I thought they were going to do that with the Dathomir, the witch, you know, that you pick up as a companion. I thought she was going to like teleport you because she can do that. You know, she can kind of teleport. Sense. And then they just didn't do that. You don't even have to make it teleporting. You just like, I don't know, fade to black, play a shuttlecraft sound.
Right.
And there I am. Like, I don't
need an excuse. Just give it to me. Story in this was pretty great, I think.
Yeah, it was good.
I was pleasantly surprised by the story.
It was a very good appearance. You know, a lot of good integrations of the existing characters. A really good Darth Vader appearance. Yep. Which is, they're not all great.
Nope.
And a good progression. You know, I think this era where, like, you know, that kind of desperate, like, you know, everything's falling apart and everybody is sort of seeing this horrible regime sort of congeal in front of them, and you know, there's people that won't let go of, you know, what used to be, and people that say like, oh, you just got to accept what is now. We lost the fight, and like, you know, it's an interesting conflict, but not just between the Empire and the Jedi or the you know, the nascent rebellion, but the conflict within people over like, well, do I fight even though it's pretty obvious I'm going to lose, or do I just keep my head down and you know? And there's it's an interesting question because in the end, you know, Yoda hid. Yeah. Yoda didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
And here you've got Cal running around trying to do this. You've got Obi-Wan out there doing this. That, you know, like the greatest Jedi Master we know just like went to a swamp place and fucked off for about 20 years. And and here, you know, like it's a, you know, it's an underdog story that like really clicks, I think, and it's interesting to see, you know, especially because of the nature of the Jedi Purge and the nature of sort of the hunt. You know, you really get to play the Empire up as the bad guys without any remorse. Yep. The Inquisitors help with that too. There's no ambiguity in this era. Like it's the iron fist of a fascist regime coming down on a galaxy that doesn't really know what happened. Like the desperation of the Star Wars galaxy is sort of really being leaned into these days in this and in Obi-Wan and all that. Like it's people talk about, it's like, oh, what fictional universe would you want to live in? Like, I bet you'd want to live in Star Wars. So you could have, I'm like,
Hell no.
Like,
are you crazy?
99% of the population of Star Wars seems to live this horrible existence.
Yeah.
Like, and like,
it's not a place I would like to live.
And there's room to address the idea that like you've got the senators and stuff in the prequels that are just like, dude, do you know what's going on outside?
Yeah.
Like, if you see, but also it's like there's a question of like, with all these different alien cultures and rules and laws and ethics and religion, like we mesh all that together. Is this the best they can do? Maybe.
Yeah.
Like it's just so disparate. So there's trillions and trillions of beings in the Star Wars galaxy that they're trying to govern, and it's just everyone falls through the cracks. Like the society is just all cracks now.
Yeah.
And I think that's this Star Wars is a dystopia, and people don't really think about that a lot. But I think the nature of the Jedi Fallen Order, and especially Jedi Survivor, the way Stig is describing it, can really lean into that. And I'm sure that's part of what he means by associating with more unsavory elements.
Yep.
Is there's always someone worse in Star Wars. There's
true.
always a worse place.
That's
to end
true,
up.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep. I'm really excited for this. We have basically a year at this point to get more excited for it because it's still not coming until early 2023.
Also, his lightsaber just went for sale at the parks.
Oh, really?
You can buy his lightsaber.
That's a big deal.
And it's got one end is all destroyed and cut because it was it's twisted off the double saber, and then it has a replacement end that makes it a nice finished saber. And then if you buy two, you can connect them together to make a double saber. And I did see a guy walking around with it. It's like 6.5 feet long.
Oh my god!
And he was just walking around with this giant thing, and it was just like. I didn't get one because I actually don't like his saber design very much. His default saber.
Yeah.
Some of the pieces you can customize it with look really cool, but it's his standard one, and I'm not super into that. But it was cool to see people walking around with a lightsaber, like a big, nice metal replica lightsaber of something that came from a video game.
Yeah.
Just like seeing a BD-1 or seeing a BD droid in Boba Fett. It's like, oh yeah, like
cross-pollination is happening in Star Wars.
It's fun to see.
It is. It's pretty cool. So anyway, there you go. That is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. All we have is that little teaser trailer that I just showed you like 4 times in a row. If you didn't get enough of it. When do you think we'll hear more about this game, Matt?
Game Awards.
That's what I was going to say.
like maybe like a real trailer.
Yep. Real trailer. Yeah, probably the first legit trailer for the game.
I wouldn't surprise me if like Jeff did a little stand-up with Stig. Mm-hmm. Like that kind of thing.
Yep.
Because it's going to be time.
Yep. So, yeah, I expect we'll see more of this around the holiday season at the Game Awards in December, to be a little more specific. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about the first game of episode 302. We're talking about games today, people. There are video games to talk about. Definitely the biggest release of the week. Most weeks in most years would not have been the case, but in 2022...
There's a timeline in which we don't even talk about this game.
Well... This is the 5th game in the series, and I do not believe we have ever spoken about the first 4 games in this series.
Maybe not. I've played them all.
Have you?
Yeah.
I have not. The last one I had played was the second one.
I definitely have played all of them. I think I played 4 at E3. I think I just wandered out because I knew some of the Rebellion guys from back in the day, and I wandered past and saw them. And I'm like, hey, and they're, hey, come play this. I just sat. They put me in a beanbag and gave me like food and drinks, and I just played Sniper Elite 4 for like an hour. I was like, okay, this is fun.
My feet are killing me.
Yeah.
I hear that. You often do get roped into things like that at E3 where they prey on the fact that you're dead tired. And they're like, if I can give this journalist someplace to sit.
Yep.
They may hang out for a while.
Very true.
It works, absolutely.
That was Epic's strategy at GDC back in the day when they were showing off Unreal 3.
They're
like, come on in, there's beer, and there's tables and chairs, and you sit in this beanbag and look at this monster.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, sure.
The game that we're talking about is Sniper Elite 5. Again, I have not played anything in this franchise since the second one. I think for a lot of people, what they remember most about this game and this franchise in general is the X-ray sniper shots, where As soon as you fire, it goes into this cinematic camera that follows the bullet as it travels towards the enemy. It gets to the enemy, it goes to this X-ray view, and it shows you anatomically what is happening inside that Nazi's body.
Most famous for being able to shoot people's balls off.
Yep. You can shoot almost anything off in this game.
It's very, very detailed.
And it will show you an exact thing. Oh, right on cue here.
The other thing I really like about this, the last couple, I mean, I don't remember when they started. I think they started doing this in 3. Or maybe it was 4. I can't remember.
Whatever the first one was that they did this was the last one that I played.
Well, they've always done this. What I'm talking about is there's another thing where you spot them with binoculars, and if you hold it on them, they'll give you a little factoid about the soldier.
Yeah.
And like I like those a lot.
Wait, the first one had the X-ray?
I think they've always had. I thought it was always the gimmick.
Well, then that's the last one I played. Whatever the first one was that had the X-ray, that's the last
Maybe
one
it was
that
two, but I feel like they've always had that. I certainly associate that with this. What defines
that's
the
what
series.
this IP is known for. Yeah.
But like, I love that. Like this guy you just shot. If you look at him with the binoculars, he takes pot shots at stray cats. So I murdered him first. And some of them are like sad, and some of them are like some are like. They're like humanizing these like soldiers on the ground and stuff, and some of them are like unrepentant, horrible Nazis, and like some of them are just like German kids that got pulled.
Was dirt poor.
Yeah, or like one guy is like has been saving part of his rations every week to feed a stray dog in the area.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, you're still
a Nazi.
I'm still gonna kill you, but I'm gonna maybe feel a little more bad than I otherwise.
Maybe I'll just headshot you first instead of maiming your knee.
You won't suffer. I'm not gonna kneecap you and then hunt you with it. Yeah, so like that's cool. Like, there's a lot of attention to detail in the game in terms of that presentation, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. It does star the same guy.
Yeah, this guy's busy.
Carl Fairburn. It is set in northern France, right around D-Day. Although the plot in this game isn't exactly the reason to play it, I guess is the best way to put it.
No, you're here for the gameplay.
Yeah.
For the sniping and the sneaking.
Yep. You run into people from various countries who are your allies, and you're always trying to find intel that leads you.
A couple of them are returning characters, but like...
I was like, really?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Like, even the main character in this game is basically just...
No, he's like B.J. Blazkowicz's, like,
bro.
Forgotten younger brother.
BJ's bro. Yeah. It's just this nondescript, completely forgettable
he's just
lead
like
character.
Like a standard issue white man.
Yep. And right there you're seeing one of the new features in this game, which is the ability to climb up walls using vines.
It only took him 5 games.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to my conclusion on this game in a little bit. It ties into what you just said in a lot of ways. So this is, obviously, it's called Sniper Elite 5. It's supposed to be a sniping game. However, this game is probably 50-50 sniping and like run and gun gameplay.
Yeah, maybe even less. I mean, there's a lot of sneaking. You can run and gun if you want, but the game doesn't want you to.
Yeah. It teaches you very quickly that you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, in part because the aim sucks.
Oh my god, does it suck.
Unless you're sniping, the aim sucks.
Then it's fine, yeah. But any other gun, it is so herky-jerky. Like, just trying to fine-tune, it's impossible. It's so frustrating. It's like, I need to aim up just a little bit. It always goes too far.
Boink. Yeah,
and then you try to aim down a little bit, it goes too far.
It's always better to sneak up on them.
Yep. And that's what I do. I'm like, okay, I'll just crouch and walk through the weeds. And and there's some discrepancies with how the cover works in this game.
Oh my god. So I've had a hard time continuing to play this because the cover is so bad. And the first thing I ended up doing is turning off the invasion thing.
I suffered with it for a while.
No, the cover system is not... I would hide behind shit, and they would just hit me in the head because the guy's head was sticking out.
Well, Matt,
there's no way to control that.
You know they're a human playing that, right? Okay.
But, like, if I'm in cover, why is my head exposed?
Yeah.
Like, that's not what cover means,
Well,
game.
see, the cover only works with the AI. Because the AI is told to not see you while you're in the weeds.
But I'm talking about hiding behind, like, a doorway or a wall.
Like the cover system.
Like, if I'm in cover in a video game, I should be in cover.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm sitting here, like, behind a wall trying to, like, look out, kind of like what you do in every Gears of War style game. You're kind of, and his head's just hanging out in the middle of the door, and so any human player can see it and shoot you. It's stupid.
I mean, the whole invasion thing, I I put up with it for way too long.
I put up with it for 2 levels, and then the second time when I realized, because like I
failed a mission like that I was gonna succeed because
I'm pretty meticulous in these games, and I like to reload if I blow my stealth or something and try to do it right. And you can't do that when you're being invaded because there's another player. You can't reload. And so at some point I was like, this interferes with the way I want to play this game, and I don't like human interference, so I just turned it off.
So we can explain this a little better, the invasion is a lot like Dark Souls or Elden Ring. Other players can come into your game through the internet and hunt you down, basically. And there are these phones located around the map. You can call on the phone, and they will give you the location of the person who's invaded your game. So it's this cat and mouse thing.
Yeah, and the location is just like the current location.
Right,
so
that moment.
Yeah.
Where that sniper is that just invaded your game. I found that like they just killed me over and over again. Because I'd be paying attention to like the mission objectives and not being killed by the AI or the CPU, and he'd walk right up behind me and just kill me. Like I just got sick of it and just turned it off eventually.
Yeah, I would hide and kind of like be in cover and get indoors and like every time I would be like hiding behind something, and I'm like, okay, I'm behind this thing. Okay, there he is, and I'd see the thing, and he could just shoot me.
Yeah,
like. Even though I'm behind cover, there's no dedicated cover button. It's not like you press a thing to go in cover. He just sort of automatically sticks to whatever.
If you hit,
but his head, the character model's head sticks out. Like
it's not real.
Stupid.
He doesn't really lock into the cover either.
No.
It's like if you're crouched and you get near cover, he will automatically nestle into the cover. But it's very easy to pull him off. And as you said, his arms, his head, they're not actually covered when he goes into cover. And you're right. Like I ended up turning off the invasion stuff.
So it just becomes like you're just running like a madman to get away from this other player, which is like not how the game is supposed to be played.
Yep.
It just feels like it breaks the whole thing.
Yep.
Like if I had like dependable like Gears of War style cover to play with, I would be much more interested in that kind of cat and mouse thing. But you can't play cat and mouse when the mouse can't hide.
No, it's true. Yep. So as we mentioned, like the aiming is really off. I will say one thing for it: the auto aim isn't like overly generous.
No, it's
it does rely on the player aiming, but the aim sucks, so it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's weird that like the aim in the sniper rifles are so dependable, and the aim with like a pistol or a machine, it's just like what
or a machine gun or SMG.
Where are you going?
Yeah, it's really hard to accurately aim. I also found that like the fire rates and like the reload times and all that stuff, it was just very. And I get this is set during World War II, and guns were what they were back then, and I think they try their best to be as historically accurate as possible, but I just never, in general, felt comfortable with the gunplay in this game. I felt like if I ever got caught out in the open, like I might as well just load up the game.
Yeah, and I think seems to be intentional, because like the last 2 games have been that way too. Like it's always been. I will say that this one and maybe it opens up later. I'm not even halfway through the campaign missions, but like the Sniper Elite 4 starts you in a giant open area in a big, I think in like a desert almost, like a big field area. And it's a big field area in like France or Germany or something, or maybe it's Italy. But you basically have a giant open place to go through, and like you can like, if you're good enough, you can snipe people from like a mile away, and they'll never even know where it came from. That's very satisfying. And then this really feels like, at first off, you're like, okay, there'll be a little linear section where they teach you how the controls work, but it never really stops being that.
No, the level. Mission. I think the level design in this absolutely sucks.
Yeah, it's the other like Sniper.
It's not an open world. Don't be fooled by watching this footage.
I would encourage you to go at some point. And it's not like we have anything better to do. Go back and try Sniper Elite 4 and see how the first mission in that compares to this, because it's night and day.
Yeah,
it's literally night and day.
But in
fact, I think it is during the day, so it is literally night and day.
So there have been situations in this game where I will alert. There's alarms in this game, and they see you. They pull them like immediately, and it just floods the map with enemies. And I would try to get away, and I would run all the way back.
Yeah, they know.
You can't. You can't get away. You can run all the way back. It'll say like boundary or whatever. Yeah. You get to a point where there's an invisible wall. They're like, no, you can't go any further.
And there's bizarre
they'll track
things.
You all the way to that point and kill you in this cattle chute. That's the problem with the level design.
Bizarre things where like, they'll find a body. Like there've been times when I'm like, two, that's how these games work. There's like, group of guys here, kill them, get past it. Group of guys here, So I'm like 2 groups past a group, and I don't hide the bodies all the time.
I hardly ever hide them.
And and at some point it says body found, and I can look back where I came from, and I see the little yellow question mark. And there's and the guy just beelines to where I am now. I'm like, what did you do?
Yeah.
Like, how did you know I was over here? I'm like a quarter mile away. Like, and he just he literally walked straight to me.
The enemies always know where you are in this game. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
The level design. So there are open areas where it'll break open, but there's tons of cattle chutes where you're literally running down this pathway that has shrubs on both sides. You can't get out of it. So if the enemies trap you in one of these tubes, you're dead. Because there's no way to get out of the tube. There's no exits on the side of the tubes.
Yeah, there's sections where I'm just like, why can't I just climb over that?
Yes.
Like,
the clambering is completely inconsistent. Whether you can climb over something or whether you can jump up and grab a ledge, it's completely random.
There was a point where I finished the main objective in the first mission, and there was other player, a sniper, like blocking the main road, which I had to get to the other side of the map to get to the safe house at the end of the mission. And I'm like, oh, I'll just climb over this section over here and go across that field, and I can cut around and not take the road, and he'll never see where I am. And I couldn't hop over any of the fences because they were just arbitrarily things I couldn't mount over. So I'm like, what? And like, you can run around in that field in the middle if you come at it from the other side, but I just couldn't get to it that way. And it didn't. It's not. There wasn't even like barbed wire over it. It was just like, no, you just can't go that way because we're gonna funnel you down this road, so you have to deal with a guy who's trying to snipe you. And it's just like, that is not what Sniper Elite is to me. It's weird. Like, Sniper Elite 4 especially was so open-ended, and they try with it. Like, there's like 3 different ways to solve the main mission in the first mission. You know, like that kind of reveals itself as you go. But like, it doesn't really matter because you're forced to go the same direction every time. Yeah,
there's no jumping in the game. Little to no climbing. As we said, it's hard to tell what you can and can't climb over.
I just was left completely cold by this.
Yeah.
And that's not... I like Sniper Elite 3 and 4 a lot, and I like the zombie ones a lot. Like, I like this series. And this is not what I want out of Sniper Elite.
It checks a lot of boxes. It has workbenches where you can go to upgrade your weapons, and the interface is basically the Pick-10 system from Call of Duty.
It is.
Straight up ripped off.
And it's just as completely incremental as like, oh, none of this feels meaningful. Even all the skills in the skill trees are like, I don't care about any of...
There's, the health. Like, I cared about the extra health
bars.
Well,
I don't care about the extra health because if I get in a situation where someone's going to... I'm
just
reload
anyway.
Like, that means I fucked up.
That's a good point. There are 3 skill trees, but there's only, 6 things in each skill tree?
Yeah. It's a middle thing and 2 on each side. So cardinal direction. So it's
like 9. Yeah.
9 per... Yeah. Did this keep happening to you? I would kill a guy and... like, you know, a close-up melee stealth kill, and when his body would fall on me, I'd start getting hurt.
No, I didn't notice that.
It happened dozens of times. Like, I'd stab him, and he'd fall against, like, a wall or something, and as I was standing over him to, like, search the body, like, all of a sudden the screen would go red, and he'd be like, ow, 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 and I could be losing, like, tiny micro slivers of health until I stepped away from the body.
Are you sure you weren't bleeding?
No. I was not touched at all.
That's a mechanic in this, too. And
I was not touched at all. Like, I was literally, if I was too close to one of the bodies having a physics moment, it would just start hurting me.
No, I didn't have any of that, luckily. There's different ammo types. There's, like, subsonic ammo, which means that the enemies can't hear you when you fire. There's armor-piercing ammo. You use, like, a weapon wheel to swap through all that. It's actually a lot like Horizon Forbidden West and how you switch weapons and switch your ammo types. As I mentioned, there's vines to scale walls, which is surprisingly new. There's also zip lines, which is surprisingly new.
Like, I don't think there's a lot of zip lining in World War II.
No. There's the autosaves. You
don't hear those stories.
The autosaves sometimes screw me.
Yeah.
It'll autosave, you'll die, you'll come back, and you'll already be dead. Mm-hmm. And you're surrounded by dudes. And
there are 3 autosave slots. But they save shockingly close to each other.
They do. It doesn't do you any good to select one of the other ones. It's bizarre. Like, I've had to go back and just, like, completely start at the last checkpoint because the autosave just screwed me.
Yeah.
Because you'll respawn and you're just in the middle of a bunch of enemies and they shoot you and you die.
And
you also cannot, when you're bleeding out, there is no way to just choose to bleed out. So when you're down in this game, you can use a medic kit to revive yourself and get back up.
If you have that skill.
If you have the skill, right. Which I do. It was one of the first things.
Yeah, it's the first one you probably get.
It was. Yeah. But you're like, do I want to use the med kit here? I don't. So if you choose that you don't want to use the med kit and you just want to bleed out and start at the checkpoint, you have to sit and watch the meter go all the way down. There's no button that just lets you select, okay, I just want to bleed out and die. It's like, there's all kinds of little things like that in this game. where over time they end up adding up. Unfortunately,
especially because like I feel like I've always like I would put the other, at least certainly 3 and 4, I would put like kind of in the same school as Hitman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got a big level and you can kind of do things that you want and got to get through and figure out ways to play with things and stuff. This one just lost. It's so weird to me that so many of the things in this are as irritating or like seem like half baked as they are, because I consider Sniper Elite to be kind of a solved equation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't feel like you didn't need to really reinvent anything in this game, but it doesn't feel right in comparison to the last one, or even the last zombie one for that matter. It's so weird. I usually really like these. I was looking forward to playing this.
Wow, I was not.
No, I kind of knew what I was
getting
games,
into,
and I don't like this one very much.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I completely hate it. I mean, I've continued to play it.
Yeah, I don't hate it, but it's like it just makes me think like, oh, I think I'd just rather play 4 again.
Huh?
4 was so much wider open and so much more creativity in how you could do, and a lot more sniping.
Yeah,
like it was a lot more sniping, frankly.
Well, it's like the enemies know where you are at all times.
Yeah.
But they're also dumb as dirt,
right, because
you can walk like in their cone of vision and they won't see you, and you can walk right behind them and assassinate them.
But it can be you hide behind like I remember the first thing I learned about like, oh, this is bad, was I was like a guy. It was 2 guys like in front of me on the other side of cover, and I'm like, okay, so I'll throw a bottle because there are bottles everywhere in the area. So I'm like, okay, clearly they want me to distract them.
Yep.
You know, clip a bottle, throw the bottle over the cover to the other side to smash it, and they go, whoop. And then he turns and looks right at me and sees me through the cover.
Instead of looking at where
the noise was, he looked at where the bottle was thrown from, and it instantly saw me through the cover.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
There's an inconsistency to it. There's like if they're looking for you and you are moving around in the tall grass, they'll see you.
Yeah.
If you're holding still, they won't see you. But if they come up to you and see you, and you melee them as fast as you can, their thing will turn red, but it will still count as a ghost kill.
Right.
But sometimes it will also alert one of the other guards,
or they'll pull the alarm.
But
and then
like, if it was a ghost kill, how did another guard notice it? Because isn't that the definition of a ghost kill?
Yeah.
Like, it's just there's an inconsistency to it that I do not associate with this series that I was really disappointed by.
Yep. Graphics are solid but unspectacular. Facial animation and the faces in general are pretty poor.
Yeah, it's not next gen only.
it's after coming off playing games like Horizon Forbidden West, boy, it's hard to look at the characters.
Well, to be fair, it looks a lot better than the vampire game.
That's true.
So.
That's a good point. We're working on a scale here, Kyle.
It's a step up from last week.
Yeah.
I'll at least give it that.
And then kind of my overarching opinion of this game is that this studio is very close of becoming like a AAA developer. It's like there's just these little things about the game, like the presentation isn't there yet. Like the in-game gameplay isn't so bad, but like the cinematics and the storytelling, those all fall well short.
Mm-hmm. Although the ideas behind the cinematics are good. Like I get what you're after. Like that's a cool scene when like, those guys get nailed with the although that was kind of your job to make sure that doesn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they don't seem to get into that too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with a it's kind of like Greedfall. It's like it's a little bit more, and you would be there.
You're almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do feel like this studio is like on to something. It's so close to being a great developer.
But they've been so close like 3 games now. Like Sniper Elite 4 was like that. It's like, oh man, like if you could tighten this up a little bit more and like get more people to realize it exists. Like putting it on Game Pass is a good move.
Good idea.
Like they're all, I think 3, 4, and 5 are all on Game Pass now.
Oh.
But I would strongly suggest, downloading 4 and trying that first level and seeing how different that is. It's a much better experience. Like I was shocked by how cattle shooty the
level design in this. Yeah. It's annoying. It's like if you stir some people up, there's no getting away. Mm-hmm. You can retreat all the way back to the beginning, and they will track your ass all the way back to the beginning of the level and shoot you and kill you.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's definitely not like that in 4.
Yeah, interesting.
Like they're pretty dumb in 4, but you can play with them. Like, like you can mess around with them, and you can back off and hide in things, and they'll walk right past you. And in this, they even like I try to do the thing where, like, this is standard in these games in general, but also like Sniper Elite. Like, okay, I'm gonna make noise right here, and then I'm gonna back away like 10 feet.
Yeah, so it attracts them.
Look at but they don't go look at the noise. They look at where I am now.
Yeah,
and it's like that. Why would you do that? Why would you change
really
that?
dumb.
It's so weird. I mean, I can still kill them, but it's like,
yeah,
that's not what I wanted them to do.
It's not what they should do. Yeah. So,
as someone who's been a fan, more or less of these games, I'm just surprised by a lot of it. I was like, I think the sound I made the most playing this game was like, oh. Like, it's like, why?
Yeah, because you played the one prior and you could see how close they were. And
I guess maybe play 4 and see what you think. Because like maybe it's more cattle shooty early on in this game because the feedback was like, oh, it's so wide open, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But like in 4, you are organically discussing. Basically they just drop you and they're like, well, you got to figure out what you're gonna do. And like as you go through, like mission objectives sort of pop up and you realize you need to do this with this and like that. It's much more free form and much more. There's stuff you can miss. There's stuff you can discover. There's like. It's way more interesting. And like I can go up that bell tower and see what I can see. Oh, I can see up here. I can spot this, and this. Okay, there might be something interesting over there. I'm going to go over there and see what that is. And like sure there's stuff in there, and you get a new weapon that it goes in your arsenal, and you can switch to it later if you want, or upgrade it if you want. Like it makes a lot more sense. It almost felt like maybe influenced by Metal Gear Solid 5 in that regard, where it was just like, oh, go see things and then go to those things and see what happens. And this is just more. This feels very bog standard. Run through the level.
Yep.
And that's not what I associate with this series.
Now, you mentioned it's free on Game Pass this month. I don't know how long it's going to stay there. But obviously, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, go check it out. I mean, it's really dry right now.
But again, I would encourage you to check out 4.
Yeah.
Frankly, because I think that's also on Game Pass right now.
Okay. The rub here, though...
And if it's not, it's like $10.
Yeah. Well, the rub here with this game in particular, Sniper Elite 5, is that if you're not a Game Pass subscriber, this game is $60. Oh, yeah. It is a full-priced game.
They've always been full-priced games, yeah.
No thanks. Like, I would pay $40 for this game.
I paid full price for 4, and I wasn't unhappy with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 was really good.
Wow.
It wasn't this, I'll tell you that much. I had way more fun with 4 than this.
This feels like a $40 game to me. Like the epitome of the $40 game.
No, 4 felt pretty full-fledged.
Okay. And there is multiplayer in this as well.
Yeah, I don't know why...
I don't know why anyone ever play it, but
and you can do the Axis invasion stuff yourself if you want to.
Yeah, you can be the invader if you want. Like, if you want to go ruin people's good times.
You want to go show them how the cover system doesn't work.
Yeah, because that is turned on by default, I would add.
And it keeps turning itself back on.
Oh, really?
Every time I start the game up again, I go in through. I'm like, oh, is that on? I look and it's back on.
Oh,
it keeps turning itself back on.
Oh wow, I'll have to pay attention to that. Well, if I play any more of this, which. I don't think that's going to
because if you get stuck in that lot, the only way to get out of it is that I could see is to quit the level and start it over.
Yeah, you can't. You can't turn it off mid-game because it makes sense.
You can turn it off in the level if you realize it's on and they haven't come in yet. Mm-hmm. But if someone's already in,
you can't boot them out. Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense, but at the same time, it's like you could be a little more consistent about the option I chose.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, that's Sniper Elite 5. It is available for everything but Switch. It's PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, Xbox One, and PC. But it is a full $60 if you are not a Game Pass subscriber. I don't think either one of us would recommend buying it at that full price.
I mean, there's nothing in it that couldn't be fixed. So there might be patches coming, or they might be able to tweak some of it. Like it might just be kind of unfinished. Mm-hmm. But right now, I wouldn't mess. I mean, obviously you can mess with this Game Pass, but like even if you get it on Game Pass, maybe it's not a good time to judge it yet.
Yeah,
depending on how it goes in the future.
All right, let's see what people in chat are saying about this game, if anything. Sneaky Charlotte Snake, could patches fix it? Maybe.
I think they could. A lot of it just feels like there's a lot of half-baked stuff in it, and it just feels like maybe they could polish it up and make it a little better. Like, there's nothing saying that you couldn't make the AI a little more like the AI in the other games, because like right now it's just frustrating.
Eve Demon says, standard B-tier Eurojank, and honestly good. We need more of that. I don't know that we need more of it.
I like more of the B-tier Eurojank of 4, not this one.
It turns out I was right. Vincent says that X-Ray was introduced in Sniper Elite 2. So
I know. I mean, Sniper Elite 1. What was that? Like 2002 or something? This series goes way back. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah. See if we have any other questions about this. I doubt it though. It's not a high-profile game. Everyone's like chomping at the bit to get to play. Vincent, do you think the developers put it on Game Pass because they knew it was half-baked?
No.
I don't think this is a scenario like a lot of them that we have where the developer is put under pressure by the publisher to get the game out like on X date.
No. I think there's just a bunch of inadvisable decisions.
Yeah.
Like, because it feels like a lot of it, the stuff I don't like feels like it's working the way it's supposed to work. I just don't like that that's how it works.
It is a little odd that a series got worse.
Yeah.
Typically, even if it's just incrementally, every franchise gets at least a little bit better with each new entry. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that rule, but...
And you can't solve the cattle chute problem with patch. I mean, the levels are going to be...
That's level design.
I mean, I would hope that, like, later levels become more like the older, like, you know, the previous game's open-ended thing. But, like, I don't want to play through this crap to get to it, you know?
I'm pretty far, and it hasn't happened yet, so I don't know.
I'm only on the... I think I finished the third mission, and then I went to start the fourth one, and I'm like, like, maybe not.
There were multiple times where I wanted to quit playing, I'll be honest. Especially, like, I think it's the second mission where there's this castle that you're trying to get to towards the end of the mission, and it's just crawling with enemies, and they all have alarms everywhere, and they're just constantly pulling the alarm, and it's just... I got to the point where I had taken down, like, 5 different herds of alarm pulls. Like,
snipers don't generally go sneaking around through buildings.
Yeah.
It's very weird choices.
Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's Sniper Elite 5. Matt and I say stay away from it if you have to pay for it, but it's worth giving it a go if you are a Game Pass subscriber.
And then play 4.
Yeah.
Because 4 is good.
And I wouldn't know that, but I'll take Matt's word for it. I trust him on that one. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about... Bethesda exclusivity is coming up again. Windows Central's Jez Corden shared this week that he was privy to information that Bethesda's Indiana Jones game will also not be an Xbox exclusive. Why, Matt?
License.
Do you think that whenever they first started working on this, that they signed a deal with PlayStation and now they're just beholden to that deal?
No. I think this is Lucasfilm saying, if we're going to do this, we want our property on everything.
Huh.
They want more exposure. This is the licensor, I think, saying, like, we don't want this to be an exclusive because we want it to be available to as wide an audience as possible.
Do you think that Xbox, with all these acquisitions, are going to keep running into this issue?
I mean, I can't think of any other licensed games that Bethesda has.
Yeah. I mean, if it ends up I'm not just saying Bethesda, but Activision and all these other.
There are contracts to fulfill. I don't think you're going to run into that with any of your new projects.
Yeah. How big of a deal is this? That this appears like it's going to keep dragging on. That these games that Xbox owners would just assume would be exclusives, and they're not.
It's not an issue at all.
You don't think so?
Indiana Jones being on both systems is not going to matter.
But I'm talking more about, like, the accumulation effect of, okay, well, it's not Call of Duty, and it's not... Now, I mean, Bethesda has put out, like, 2 PlayStation exclusives since it was bought by Xbox?
Yeah, you're just fulfilling contracts that already existed. That's all.
I mean, Starfield looks like it's going to be exclusive.
When Starfield is only on Xbox, you know, that'll be the other way around, you know? And probably Elder Scrolls, but we'll have to wait until we're in our 50s before that happens.
Yeah. Do you think that Elder Scrolls will be exclusive to Xbox?
Yes.
You do?
I don't think you pay $4 billion for that company without keeping that to yourself.
Even though Pachter claims that the reason this is happening is because those games were already available on PlayStation, and that's why they have to keep being released for PlayStation.
Yeah, that's not a thing as far as I know. I mean, I guess you could do that if you wanted to, you still wanted the revenue from it, but I don't think that that's what they plan to do.
I think part of that too.
There's nothing preventing. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you can just switch things to be. It's like, you know, like I've never heard of that in anything before. The idea that, like, you've put this on this before, so you have to put the sequels on it too. Like, that's not a thing.
Well, no, he's saying that they're trying to avoid investigations by the FTC. They don't want to do anything that will make waves that would cause a governing body.
By the
to
time Elder
investigate.
Scrolls comes out, they'll have had that corporation in their fold for almost a decade, and it won't matter.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is that by the time Elder Scrolls comes out, I wasn't gonna say a decade, but I was gonna say at least 5 years. It's water under the bridge by that.
Very optimistic, man.
I know. I try.
I mean, that's different than like not releasing Call of Duty on multiple platforms like next year. You know, like that's, you know, Elder Scrolls, the ship is you're going to be well beyond any potential of the government saying like, oh, you got to break that monopoly of open world fantasy.
No one's going to care about that deal
made
anymore.
by people in Maryland. That's not anything. That's not a thing. Like, it's not going to happen. Elder Scrolls 6 will be exclusive to Xbox and Windows. Like, there's no question in my mind about that.
I tend to agree with you as well.
This is just, you know, it was already happening. The licensors involved. I'm sure if it was not a licensed property, it probably would shift, assuming there were no deals in place the way like Deathloop had. But Deathloop had an exclusivity deal. Like, that was different.
Yeah. My next question becomes, do you think that this is a project that Bethesda just keeps putting off?
No, I think it's a project that's hard to do.
Yeah.
I think making Indiana Jones games is historically a very difficult prospect. It's no coincidence that the best one is a point-and-click adventure game, because, you know, it's very hard to do Indiana Jones right. It's also very hard to make an Indiana Jones movie right these days, it turns out. But you know, you don't want to just do Tomb Raider with a guy in a hat, but
that
you
might be
have
good
to. The other problem that they've always run into is like whip physics is hard.
They are
and
hard.
Like making that work
Castlevania,
properly.
that's been a problem.
Yeah, making that work properly and satisfying way has always been an issue with these games.
In 3D especially.
Yeah,
yep.
And you got to get a guy who I'm willing to listen to pretend to be Harrison Ford for 20 hours, and that's not. I mean, I got that one guy that they've used forever for Han Solo. He's pretty good, but like, you know, I don't know. And you kind of run into the problem of like, you know, there's a little bit of a reevaluation of Indiana Jones where it's just like, okay, so he goes places and steals things from indigenous cultures and takes them back to a museum. It belongs in a museum. No, maybe it belongs with the people you're taking it from. Like,
yeah. I never really thought about that, but you're right.
But, you know, that's not super cool these days. The British Museum is an amazing collection, but it's an amazing collection because everybody sort of walked in like hours now. The only reason the pyramids are still in Egypt is because they couldn't figure out how to move them. Like, we're talking about people that's like, oh, that's a nice obelisk. We're just going to knock it over and take it to Britain.
Right.
You know, like
no, you're right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's been happening for a long time.
Yeah, but, you know, Indiana Jones is also sort of at his best when he's discovering, like, these hidden things, these weird, fantastical things. You've also got the weird backwards problem, or like the problem with the Uncharted movie was that you were making a movie out of something based on Indiana Jones, so you already had better movies of the same thing.
The same thing.
So making a movie out of the game that was supposed to do Indiana Jones in video games is like, well, we already have an Indiana Jones movie, so what? And conversely, it's like, okay, you're trying to make an Indiana Jones movie, but we have Tomb Raider and Uncharted games, so are you going to make a better Indiana Jones game than Tomb Raider or Uncharted? I have a hard time believing that.
I do too.
So
yeah.
I think you're kind of setting yourself up for not failure, but like you're really setting the bar high by trying to, you know, in the same way Uncharted setting the bar high by trying to make basically a new Indiana Jones idea in film. You're setting the bar high. Which game is this?
This is the Emperor's Tomb.
Is this the one that was on N64?
It's really the last Indiana Jones game.
The one that was on N64?
No, No, this is the Emperor's Tomb. This came out. This was a PS3 and Xbox 360 era game.
What was on the N64?
It was just Indiana Jones, I believe.
No, that was Emperor's Tomb, I want to say.
Was it?
This might have been an update of that.
But see, that didn't really come out, right? It was only like a GameStop special or something.
It was only at
some retailer had an exclusive.
It was a special. It was a Blockbuster.
Maybe
thing, I think, and because I have it, I had to order.
That's probably worth money.
It is worth a lot of money. I had to order it special to get it. For instance, which one was it? This is
someone in chat.
Original Xbox game.
It was OG Xbox. Yeah.
So what was the one on N64?
I think it was just called Indiana Jones.
No, it had a
subtitle?
No, all Indiana Jones things are Indiana Jones and something.
Huh.
It's like that's Infernal Machine.
Infernal Machine.
That's what it was.
That's it. Thanks, Corey Film. Yeah.
And then there was the one that never came out that like was the demo for that physics engine.
No, right.
It was
I
like
forgot all about that.
Fighting on top of a cable car in San Francisco.
Yeah, I forgot all about that one. Yep. So not a lot of Indiana Jones games, to your point. It's hard to create something that's not derivative of Tomb Raider or now more recently Uncharted. Or
I mean, the best Indiana Jones game is still Fate of Atlantis, which is the point and click adventure.
Yeah, it just hasn't.
Much like the best Star Trek game is the point and click games.
Yeah. My point I was getting at when I said maybe Bethesda delays the game is to maybe keep the accumulation from happening, so it isn't like, oh, another Bethesda game is not exclusive after Xbox bought them.
I think this is Lucasfilm, like, not wanting to limit their audience on this.
Okay.
And I think you're sort of stuck. This kind of has to come out next year, because that's when the new movie comes out.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot there was even a new movie being made.
Well, they only just mentioned it again this past week. They put out the poster and like a little, not even a poster, it's just an image of him looking over a thing, and it says July. I think it's July 2023 or June 2023. It's next summer.
The last indie movie was pushing the envelope for me, man. Like watching his elderly ass like go through the action scenes, I was like, man, this isn't working anymore. Like.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they have a better idea this time, and maybe they're not listening to George quite as much, because that was a problem in the last one. And there's no Shia LaBeouf, which is probably an improvement. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm going to set my expectations low.
Harrison Ford is 80.
I know.
And they keep breaking him.
I mean, he was like 70 or something in the last one. Yeah. And like there was the one scene where he was like scurrying up the boxes in that big, massive like shipping building. And I mean... he looked like a grandpa trying to climb up boxes.
Yeah.
Like,
well, especially because the pants don't fit right anymore, and it's just like
probably because he hasn't pulled up too far, like all old people do.
It's weird.
It is weird. I actually had Valentine's dinner one time with him sitting right next to me at his son's restaurant, Ford's Filling Station in Culver City. One of the first years I was here, I got a reservation to that place, and I took my... Was it my girlfriend at the time or my wife? Regardless,
when we first moved here, she was
just my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And we went over there and we sat down to eat, and within 10 minutes, Harrison Ford. And what's his famous girlfriend's wife's name or whatever?
Oh, Ally McBeal.
Yeah, whatever her real name
is. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't remember her name.
They sat down next to us, and I sat down and had dinner next to Han Solo and Indiana Jones.
There's a famous, it was Calista Flockhart. That's what it was. Famously in LA, like there was a thing where this was when Alec McBeal was still on. It was like the last season or something, and she had to go in for some meeting at I think at Paramount, and or wherever they were producing that. And he was with her, but didn't want to go in because go into a movie studio when you're Harrison Ford, it's just a whole thing. So he's like, I'm just gonna take a nap in the car, and you go do your thing. And at one point in the meeting, she gets called out by security, and he's like, "There's a homeless guy in your car, and we're trying to get him out." And he says he's Harrison Ford, and she's like, "It is Harrison. That's Indiana Jones, you idiot." And so he was, and like it was just like this, like It's a famous story where she had to come out and vouch for the fact that that he was Han Solo, and there was a whole thing. It's like, oh wow, she's more famous than he is now.
I didn't even bother him. We just sat.
Oh no, I would never. Like I was at the Empire Strikes Back 30th anniversary screening, which was over 10 years ago now. That was 2010.
Yeah.
And they had a big red carpet, and like there was like a bunch of people were there from the movies, and like he was the special guest because he was doing a Q&A after the movie, and he was him and Billy D. Williams and Peter Mayhew and a bunch of people were there. And I was not there for press. I was just there to see the movie. And they're like, "Oh, are you here to do the red carpet?" I'm like, "No, I'm just here to see it." And they're like, "Can you wait inside here until we let people in, just to get keep as many people?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I'm standing in there, and the red carpet continues inside the building. And and at one point Harrison Ford did come in and sort of like try to decompress a second. And I look over at him, and he looks at me, and I'm just like, "I'm just not going to bother you." And he's like, "Thank you." And I'm like,
I didn't say a word to him, but
the one thing was that I was not prepared to be taller than Indiana Jones.
No. I mean, I ended up at Comic-Con, like we interviewed him a bunch of times, and I've talked to him, but in that moment, like we didn't bother him. No, you
leave him alone. My favorite thing of that night was, and now it's even more so, but like they asked him at the Q&A, like, how when was the last time you saw this movie? And he's like 30 years ago. He's like, and he's like I watched the first one to prepare for this because I hadn't seen that in a long time either. And he says it was funny because when we made the movie, Alec Guinness, he was a wonderful man and an incredible actor and was great to work with, but like when we made that movie, he was an old man to us. We thought he was and I watched that movie, and I'm like, he doesn't seem so old anymore. He's like, and I looked him up on the internet, and when we made that movie, he was 3 years younger than I am now. So that was disturbing. And then someone asked him, like, what did you learn from Alec Guinness? And his answer was like, he taught me a lot about how to buy real estate in London.
That's funny. I see a lot of you guys asking Matt about Top Gun and other movie stuff. Save that till the end when we do our Q&A. We'll get back to that stuff. But it is one of the fringe benefits of living in L.A.
Commander Fett, Spielberg is directing the new movie. Like, they're well into shooting.
And he is actually directing it?
Yeah, he's directing it. Okay. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what else he's doing.
Yeah, it's a fringe benefit of living in L.A. You just run into celebrities like at the most random places. They're just everywhere.
And then you don't recognize them because they look different out of makeup.
Yep. Erebus asks, isn't this just as simple as the deal for Machine Games to make game was signed before the Microsoft acquisition completed? It could be. It's possible.
But even if it's not, I guarantee you Lucasfilm doesn't want to limit the audience to one platform.
Yeah.
And
as many people
the licensor
possible.
gets to decide that. Like if it does no skin off them if they decide to pull the license because they don't want to have an exclusive in play.
Yeah.
So frankly, I'm surprised that they're allowing Jedi Survivor to be next gen only.
Leonosaurus, Indiana Jones in the Wheelchair of the Gods. That's the next subtitle for the new one. They may have to, honestly. Okay, let's move on.
I mean, he's still a very active dude. If they would stop breaking his bones in these things.
Yeah.
I guess some of the stunt guys have talked about how he wants to do all the stunt stuff, and they're like,
no, dude, you're rickety and old. Not a good idea. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about another game that I played this week. I played more than one game this week. It's a revelation. And in fact, I'm guessing a lot of you guys have also been playing this game because it is free to play. And that game is Roller Champions. It is Ubisoft's new free to play roller derby game. There's really no other way to describe it. It's handled differently from roller derby in how you score and how they score it. And I'll be honest, Matt, I have no idea how they score real roller derby.
No, I don't know.
Back in the 80s, if you watched late night TV, there would be a block where the first half hour would be Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, and then the second half hour would be roller derby. And I watched that block of programming a lot and never figured out how they scored roller derby. Have you ever figured it out?
No, I've never even considered worrying about it.
Well, I did because I watched it every week. And I felt like it was just like wrestling, just fixed, basically. And I think it was.
I guess James Mangold is directing Indy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Spielberg.
No, it's not Spielberg.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So anyway, Roller Champions is available
Logan. That could be good.
What'd you say?
He directed Logan.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Roller Champions is free to play. It's on every platform, literally everything. You can get this on Switch as well. And it is a competitive 4 versus 4 roller derby game. And the objective is, and let me get the B-roll rolling here so I have some context to help you guys understand it. The objective is, once you get the ball, you need to make a full lap around the track. And there are segments of the track and gates that you have to go through. And once you make a full lap, then you are able to score. And there's this little goal kind of basketball hoop thing, except instead of being horizontal, it's vertical. And as you ride by it, you can aim and throw it at the goal, and that's how you score. Now, the catch is, or the twist is, you don't have to score after you make that one lap around the track. You can keep doing laps around the track, and then when you throw that ball through, instead of getting 1 point, you'll get, if you did 3 laps, you'll get 3 points. If you did 4 laps, you'll get 4 points. The first team to get to 5 points wins the match. And those are the basics of the game. And honestly, my big problem with the game is that it is too basic. There's not a lot of nuance to this game that will help separate the really good players from just the decent players who actually already understand how to play it. Movement in this game, as you might have guessed, you're on roller skates. So the movement is a little weird and it takes a while to get used to it. You can't really just stop on a dime and start going in the other direction. It's a lot like skating, like ice skating, in that you kind of do loops instead of just stopping and starting, although there is a brake that you can use to stop and start a little more quickly. Generally, you're just trying to do loops around everything. You do a turn, it's not just a stop and then start going the other direction. You do a loop and slow and more slowly head off in the other direction. And this, to me, is really the root of the problem in this game. You have the ability to gain speed by pumping, and some of you guys may be familiar with this if you played any skateboarding games or if you just skated. Essentially, you're just decompressing your legs as you go down a ramp, and that helps you build speed. It happens in skateboarding. It also happens in roller skating, and that is how you gain speed in this game, is you're constantly going up a wall, and then as you go down the wall, on Xbox, it's the right trigger. You hold the right trigger, and you pump down, and you gain speed. So you kind of go side to side through this half-pipe-like environment, gaining speed, and the walls are really high. They go up 80, 90 feet off of the actual track that you're roller skating around. And you have teammates, and you can pass to your teammates, and honestly, once you start to get good at the game and you're playing against other people who are good at the game, passing is essential, because literally, once people get over the hump with this game, it just turns into this constant back and forth, because you can also tackle in the game. So when you're on defense, you have two moves. You can tackle someone, or you can uppercut somebody. The uppercuts, I've never landed one. But what you can do is there's this move that you learn over time, and it's kind of like skiing was in Tribes. It's this thing that people do that wasn't really built into the game for that purpose. Like skiing in Tribes, being able to just skate across the land, that was like a glitch. But people loved it so much, they just kept it in the game, and it became a part of the game. The dive uppercut in this game is the same deal. So if you dive at them really quickly and then uppercut them, you can actually use the uppercut. But what the uppercut is used more for in this game is to play defense and to block. Because on your own, it's really hard to get enough speed to go high up on the walls. But if you use the uppercut, it makes you jump really high into the air. And then you can land on the vertical wall and then ride down the wall and get a ton of speed. So it's this kind of, you end up using the uppercut as an offensive technique instead of a defensive technique. As a defensive technique, it's almost worthless, pointless. But what happens once you get pretty good at this game and you're playing against other people is what you're seeing right now. It's just, I get knocked down, you pick up the ball, you get knocked down, I pick up the ball, I get knocked down, you pick up and it just turns into this chain. Most of the games that I play in this go to overtime and the score is 0-0. Because it's so easy to stop the other team from scoring. Because the other thing is, you're not locked in to going around the track one direction. So if you want to score, you have to go around in a particular order and go through the gates. But on defense, you can just turn around and just go backwards and wait for them to come around the corner and just lay them out. It's very hard to score. And as you start playing more advanced players who start using the uppercut, they'll stand in front of the goal and just use the uppercut to jump in front of the goal and block the goal, even if people do get a shot off. It becomes this battle of defense where you just wait for one person to make a mistake. When I first started playing, it was fun. Like, games were like 5-4 or 5-3 or whatever. Like, there was lots of goals being scored. The more I played it, the less I enjoyed playing the game, because it just became these defensive struggles where nobody could score. I mean, heck, it's hard sometimes just to get two gates, let alone make it all the way around the track so that you're set up to actually put the ball through the hole and score. A lot of people are comparing this game to Rocket League. This has nowhere near the legs of Rocket League, nor the nuance of Rocket League. I've yet to discover this extra layer of skill that you can try to attain that makes you a better player. Like in Rocket League, it's being able to fly. Once you've mastered like being able to time passing and hitting, and you can put the ball on goal from anywhere on the court in Rocket League, your next step is to learn how to fly. And learning how to fly in that game makes a huge difference, because you can hit balls that are way higher than anyone else can hit. It becomes a huge advantage. And if you're a platinum player, you have to be able to do it or you won't remain platinum. In this, there's no extra layer of skill to attain to where you are just better than somebody else. You reach that skill ceiling in this game very, very quickly. I mean, literally, Matt, in the span of like 2 hours, you're a pro at this game already. And it just comes down to like luck, or someone making a dumb mistake, or having one really crappy team member on your team who doesn't know what they're doing during matchmaking. Otherwise, if you're matched with people who are as good as you are, and you're playing against people who have played at least for a couple hours, it just turns into this very frustrating back and forth where you're just waiting for someone to make that one mistake. So I have not had a great time playing this. It was fun for the first, like, hour. The better I got at it, the less I liked it. Now, there's never been a roller derby game before. And I doubt there will be a roller derby game afterwards.
There must have been some roller derby game.
I don't think there was. Can you remember one?
I mean, not like this, obviously, but there must have been. Somebody must have made a standard roller derby game at some point.
Can't remember one for like the NES or anything like that.
Cricket games. There must be roller derby video games.
Maybe? I don't remember one. I've never seen one. But I don't think that there's like this audience that's been pining for a roller derby game in the first place, or there would have been one by now. Whoever gave the green light to this game at Ubisoft probably should be fired.
It's very weird. It always felt, even when they first showed that, I'm like, how did this get beyond like a proof of concept?
Like, this is like a bunch of people at the bar after work sitting around drunk being like, I'm going to make a roller derby game. Oh, yeah. Don't forget that. Put it in the notes on your phone. And then whoever it was had the guts to go into a meeting sober the next week and pitch it. And then someone greenlit it. This thing has been in development forever. There was an alpha back in like 2018, Matt. There's gameplay on the internet from early access in 2018. The other thing, too, is that this game, like a lot of free-to-play games, is a complete and total grind. The entire interface is set up to make you spend real money. Unlocking stuff in this takes forever. Like, just going from level 1 to like level 2, you have to win like 5 matches before you get to the second level. And then when you do, you get like some stupid cosmetic thing that you don't even care about. And it's so dumb you don't even equip it. Like, that's what almost everyone looks the same in the game because no one's spending money on it. And because of that, it's hard to tell sometimes even what team you're on. And I know this is weird, but like, sometimes I forget whether I'm on the blue team or the orange team because your player has no designation. And the way the scoreboard works, it's not like your team is always on the left and the other team is always on the right on the scoreboard. There have been times where I've been playing this and I'm like, wait a minute, am I blue or orange? There's I wouldn't call it scummy because it's not like the things that you unlock with real money make you better at the game. They are all pretty much cosmetic. But at the same time, you're not unlocking really anything on your own of any value. If you want any of the cool cosmetics, you're pretty much going to have to pay real money for them.
I knew that there was a roller derby game on Wii.
On Wii?
It was called Jam City Roller Girls.
Wow. I don't remember that at all.
It was at PAX. That's why I knew.
Oh, you actually saw it?
Yeah, I didn't play it, but I saw it. Yeah, because they had the skaters there doing stuff there. I remember that.
The other thing too is that I think they just added a new arena. They call them maps, but they're obviously not maps. I had to play this same arena over and over and over again.
How different can the arenas be?
Well, I don't know if you actually. That's a good question, Matt. How would you feel if the arena wasn't just circular, if it had other turns and things like that?
Yeah, like a figure 8 or something. Yeah, I guess you could mess with it.
There's like a skate park in the game that you can go to like learn how to like learn the ropes of how like gaining speed and all that kind of stuff
Roller
works.
Rumble, that's another one.
What was it called?
Roller Rumble.
What platform was that for?
Oh, sorry, that's a board game. Oh. There's a lot of roller derby board games.
That's really weird.
You search roller derby video game and you get 3 pages of roller champions.
Yeah,
and then you get into the older stuff.
Then you finally get into this. But to my point, there aren't very many.
No, I mean the demand doesn't seem to be like frothing.
If you were doing your research, there's no research that would point you to the fact that yes, we should release this roller derby video game. But anyway, I had to play every match on this same course or arena, whatever the hell you want to call it. They call it a map. And I did see that I believe over the weekend they did release a second map. I did not have a chance to play it because I was playing a bunch of the other stuff for this episode. But there's not enough maps. And I do think that if you had courses that weren't just a circle, it would make the game more interesting. If you had like corkscrews and things like that, where you had to have X amount of speed or you couldn't get through the corkscrew, I think they can do something with the maps in this game to make it a little more interesting. But unfortunately, right out of the gate, the maps are very basic and they do get boring pretty quickly. What else do I have on this game? Let me check my notes really quickly. But again, it is free to play, so it is low risk. You're not putting anything out there if you do want to spend a little time with it. Matt, do you have any questions about Roller Champions?
No.
What about you in chat? If anyone has any questions, hit me up.
My only question would be like, why did you do this?
Why did I play this?
Ubisoft.
Oh, why did Ubisoft do it?
I don't understand. Of all the things that Ubisoft managed to get to market, why is this one of them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've checked recently, but Ubi's not exactly putting out a lot of games.
No.
I'm sure they looked at this quarter and they're like, we literally do not have a single game to release that quarter. Let's finally roll out Roller Champions. Because again, this game has been in a playable state for many, many years at this point. So I just think they saw we have an empty hole in our release calendar and it's gigantic and we got to get something out. Hey, how about let's make this roller game free to play, because no one's going to pay for it.
No.
So let's make it free to play. We'll load in a bunch of cosmetics and see what happens. And I will say this, like, there's plenty of people playing it. Like, it doesn't take very long before you get into a match.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah. I mean, again, it is free to play. So, you know, I don't know what that curve looks like as far as, like, attrition for players in most free-to-play games. But this is not at the top of the list of free-to-play games, so I would guess that attrition would be a little more accelerated than it is for a lot of free-to-play games. But look, like I said, it's free, and you can go. It's on every platform. You can go and download it and check it out if you want to. I have a feeling that you'll be just like me, though, and within an hour or two, you'll be like, I think I've figured this out, and I've learned everything that I can from it. Again, though, I think if they do have some maps that are a little more adventurous, it could crack open the concept a little bit more. But as it stands right now, I would definitely never pay for this game. And it even, you know, if you're a Switch owner and you have a very small hard drive, like, I wouldn't delete, like, most of your games to make room for this one. But I will say this, Ubisoft has some balls. Because...
Yeah. Certainly strays from the formula, I guess.
Yeah. Congrim asked...
Nobody's climbing any towers to see the environment in this game.
Yeah. Congrim asked, would I rather play this or Steep? Oh, well... I would rather play Steep, for sure. But the other thing, too, is that Steep is, like, old news now. That studio has now put out a new game, and which I really liked a lot. So I would play that because I do own it. But if I did have to choose between this or Steep, I would play Steep. Steep is by far the better game. And both by Ubisoft, I would add, as well. Oh, the Minority Games brings up a good question. Like, where is Beyond Good and Evil 2? Well, we actually got some news on that in the last week. It is going into full production, finally, by Ubisoft Barcelona, I believe.
Sure.
And I hate saying Barcelona like that, but apparently that's the correct way to say it. So that game is supposed to be going into full production, finally, after pre-production for the last 14 years or however long it's been. So it is coming. But you're right, like, you would think Ubisoft would have concentrated on getting Beyond Good and Evil 2 done instead of something like this and filling this window with something that people actually want to buy and spend money on instead of a roller derby video game. Mitchell is alive. Thank you for Twitch Prime, by the way.
It isn't, you know, even if you are interested in roller derby, I don't think this really scratches that itch anyway, because it's not roller derby. It's some weird, like,
action violent take on it.
It looks like something American Gladiators would come up with in the 90s.
That's actually a good point. Have you ever seen that movie Rollerball?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
It's actually more like Rollerball, really, than roller derby. That's a pretty good movie, by the way. At least when I was a kid, I thought it was good. It probably isn't. Now, if I watch it now, I probably
I don't know
about
I mean, they remade that, too.
Yeah. Mitchell is Alive says, Knockout City by EA was a risk. It sounds just as bizarre as this to me. I guess I could agree that a dodgeball game is just about as risky.
But at least you're not running around the same oval track forever.
Yeah, I mean, just to be honest with you, Knockout City, twice the game that this is, in my opinion. As far as holding my attention and making me want to go back, I actually played Knockout City for a good, 2 weeks, solid. I actually got into it. There were mechanics in that game that added the extra layer of skill where you felt like you were progressing and becoming better at the game. And the other thing I should mention too is that while you're on defense in this game, as I said, you can either dive into people and knock them down, or you can uppercut them. On the offensive side, you have no counter to avoid that. You have no special moves or a spin move. All you can do is jump. So you may have seen back there a minute ago when I had the ball, I was carving from side to side, but also jumping because I'm trying to avoid the people who are trying to tackle me or uppercut me, because they do not give the offensive player a means to do that. So
Do you automatically move slower when you have the ball?
No.
Because it looks like they catch you real quick.
No, what was happening there was I was holding the trigger that let me aim. So if like when you do that, you kind of square up so you can actually throw it accurately as you're rolling by. But I do that a lot of times if I want to pass accurately. I'll like pull the trigger up to pull up my aim to pass better. Although the passing 90% of the time is automatic and works okay. But that is really the only kind of advanced technique for this game that you get better at as you play is passing. And you do have to do that. Otherwise, the game is completely frustrating. You'll never score unless you pass as you get better at it. Minority asks, is this arcadey like Blitz or more simulation like Madden? Definitely arcadey like Blitz, for sure. Although, it's not like the physics are all that exaggerated. The uppercut is, obviously. Because you try to do this punch, and you fly about 40 feet up into the air. So that's pretty exaggerated. But the rest of it, not so much. Like, you have to generate speed by basically thrusting as you go down the ramp. And that's real. That's legit. That's how skateboarding works. That's how inline skating works as well. So there you go. That's Roller Champions. Again, it's free to play. Again, it's available on everything. If what you just saw or what you just heard sounds interesting, check it out. You can download it for free on whatever platform you have. All right, let's move on. Matt, why did you not give that a go?
I forgot it existed.
Oh, really? Okay, that's fair enough. Would you have played it if you had remembered?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have liked it. I'm sure I had no interest in it.
And so after I've spoken about it now, no chance of you ever playing it. Yeah.
No.
That's what I figured. Congram, you should look into air guitar contests. Danny says you actually do go slower with the ball. It said so on the loading screen. Maybe your general skating does, but there's things that you can do, and I should have mentioned this actually before we moved on. There's things you can do to gain speed other than carving down the walls. Like you can, like roller derby, you can grab onto a teammate and they can whip you and sling you forward, and that gives you more speed. I did not really notice going slower though when just skating. Now when you're aiming, it does because your skating stance changes. You're actually like this and just kind of rolling along. But I did not notice that I was slower when I was skating with the ball though. But
I thought it looked like you were going slower.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just watching the footage.
Yeah, playing it, I didn't feel that way, but maybe they should get rid of that because you feel like helpless when you have the ball. It's like you're just waiting to get tackled and to lose the ball.
Yeah, it's not like you can see where they're coming from.
You can't because they're all coming from behind. You can flip the camera around if you want to, but then it's like impossible to skate like and not lose speed and blah blah blah. So Mitchell is live. Any other obscure sports you think would make good video games? Jarts.
Yeah.
You notice in the 80s, like one kid got impaled by a jart and they made him illegal?
Lawn dart, yeah.
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 And guns.
Oh. One kid choked to death on a missile out of a Cylon Raider, and every toy I bought since then has a missile the size of my arm.
I thought it was the Shogun Warriors, the missiles that they shot off their hands.
No, it was a Cylon Raider.
Oh, yeah. It's funny how some things, the shoe bomber.
Yep.
The one dude,
tries and fails.
Tries to light his shoe on fire on a flight,
and we take our shoes off for the rest of our lives.
For eternity. It's so messed up.
Which I get, is that freedom? I don't know.
Freedom.
It's freedom of my toes.
Free D-U-M-B. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the PlayStation 5 Pro. What do you think?
Kinder Surprise is like another good example. Kinder Surprise is a European thing. It's an egg, like a chocolate egg, and there's a toy in the middle in it. And they were banned in America for a long time because out of the concern that children would just eat the egg and swallow the toy. And so I don't remember that. You can get Kinder Surprise now in America, but they're like split in. You open the egg, it's split in half, and it's two separate things, and then the toy is a separate thing. So you can't possibly. There's no way to possibly confuse it with food.
Gotcha. Okay.
You probably have that same problem with the Cracker Jack now.
Yeah, they can't hide the toys in the candy anymore because cereal? Cereal they used to hide stuff, and they do now. The toys in cereal are not in the cereal; they're outside the plastic bag of cereal, in between the box and the bag.
Yeah, but they used to be in the actual cereal.
Yeah. You would like pour it, and it would pour
it out
into your
boom.
bowl.
There was Michelangelo, the Ninja Turtle.
Yep. So anyway, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the PlayStation 5 Pro, which I will fully admit that when I caught wind of this for the first time, like I think it was last Monday or something like that, I was like, what the F are you talking about? There's no way that a PlayStation 5 Pro is coming anytime soon. That's absurd. Well,
I still hold to that.
Okay.
I do not believe this news.
Do you know all the different reports and everything about it?
I've seen a bunch of them. I don't know if I've seen all of them, but I don't believe it.
Okay. Well, there have been several things that have happened since that initial kind of rumor started floating around.
I think what's happened, I heard something about them changing how the chips are manufactured so they can make them faster.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to change the power of the system.
Okay.
I think
there'll be a new model.
I think there's going to be a new model that lets them make it to meet demand more efficiently, but I think people are conflating or confusing that with a Pro model. I don't think that's happening.
Well, let me share all the news that is, or rumors really is what they are, that is broken over the last week around a PlayStation 5 Pro. The first thing that happened was on May 13th, a job listing was posted by AMD suggesting that it's working on a next generation RDNA chipset for consoles, which would mean new and more powerful. It wouldn't just be the same chip with, a smaller version of the same power chip. So that was the first thing that broke, that started people talking about not just a PlayStation 5 Pro, but like an Xbox Series XX, I guess is how it would work. Because remember, it was Xbox One X.
Yeah, I have no idea what their naming convention will be going forward.
I guess this new one would be Xbox Series XX. I don't know. But anyway, that initial news snippet led to people thinking that there were going to be mid-console refreshes for both platforms in the near future. And then let me make sure I get this right. Then YouTube channel, Red Gaming Tech, which obviously way less reliable. I've never even heard of the YouTube channel. It has, I don't know, like 30,000 subscribers or something. But for whatever reason, a lot of people seem to trust the guy that runs this channel. And he piled on and said, yep, this is happening. He said just the PlayStation 5 Pro, though. He was the first person to say, oh, it is going to be more powerful, and talked about how ray tracing was going to be for every game with this new model because it's more powerful and it's going to be able to handle it, blah, blah, blah. And then the most recent was on May 30th, TCL, which makes televisions. And by the way, if you're in the market for a TV and you're looking for a great TV on the cheap, TCL is the best out there. I have said this before on this show. If you're looking for a great TV at a great price, TCL is the brand that you should be looking at. I got my mom a TCL TV a couple Christmases ago. It still looks stunning. They make great TVs. But anyway, they held a press conference on May 30th about their future TVs, and TCL indicated that it expects a PS5 Pro model to release in either 2023 or 2024 alongside equivalents for Xbox Series X. So there you go. You have three different sources that are leading people to believe that PS5 Pro is either coming at the end of next year or the beginning of 2024. And only Red Gaming Tech has gone on record as saying that these are the specs and this is what it's going to do. Everyone else has been a lot more general about it. Other final, maybe tertiary proof or evidence, PlayStation VR 2 has been, another rumor this week is that it is entering mass production very soon and that it should be coming out early 2023. So obviously you'd want more powerful hardware maybe to run PlayStation VR 2. Just an
the existing PS5 should be able to handle anything you're going to throw at that headset.
You would think, right? The other thing too is the timing for this is right in line with PlayStation 4 Pro. It came out 3 years after PS4 did. Mm-hmm. So the timing for this, if it is late 2023, early 2024, does fall in line with the PS4 Pro. Now, obviously the difference here, Matt, is that people still can't buy the base PS5.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no reason to introduce a new model like that when you still haven't sold as many as the old model as people want to buy. Like, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Now, here's another anecdote. The first year sales for PS5 were more brisk than PlayStation 4. Last year, it fell behind. The PS5 fell behind.
Yeah, because you couldn't buy it.
Right, because they couldn't manufacture enough of them. Now, Sony is saying, from this point forward, the PS5 is going to destroy PS4. That this year it will make up for what it lost last year and then some, and then from that point onward, PS5 is just going to destroy PlayStation 4 as far as like how quickly it's selling. So with all this in mind, Matt, how likely do you think it is that we'll see mid-generation refreshes for these consoles in the next year and a half?
0.
You think it's total
Not
0?
a chance in hell.
I agree with you.
Doesn't make any sense.
I agree. It makes no sense whatsoever. Now,
you can't even make enough to get people the systems they want now. How are you going to make 2 SKUs where it doesn't make any sense? Like, the only thing it could be is changing how you manufacture the system so you can make it faster with a different chipset. But like boosting the power and calling it something else, it doesn't make it. Might be a different SKU, but it's going to be the same thing.
That's what I think too, Matt. I think if anything, if we get a refresh at all, it's going to be PlayStation has found a way to manufacture the console cheaper.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a little smaller.
Maybe a little smaller. Maybe there's a PS5 Slim. Same power, same performance, cheaper for Sony to make. I don't think they lower the price, but cheaper for Sony to make, but the same power and maybe a little smaller.
Yeah, I don't
even think that's going to happen.
No.
Because people don't realize you can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're producing this new PS5. You have to completely refit your facilities to create this new console. They still haven't even got production of the base PS5 up to satisfactory amounts at this point. I agree with you 1,000%. This makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, this is
There's
I
no
think
logic
this
to
is
it.
People misinterpreting half-known data. As far as the TCL thing is just like they want people to buy TVs.
Exactly. That is TCL has an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
It needs you to get excited about its 8K TV.
So they're telling
that
you
it's
that
now
like,
trying
an
to sell.
8K PlayStation is coming. You better get that TV now.
Right, because people are looking at the PS5. They're like, but wait a minute. Like, PS5 doesn't play games in 8K, and neither does Xbox Series X. But in TCL's like, but wait a minute.
But it's coming.
It's coming.
And it is coming, but like in 2026.
Yeah. Like, I mean, 8K games, I think, are way farther away than that, probably. Let's be honest.
Even a PS5 Pro would be like, oh, it plays stuff in 4K reliably at 60.
Right.
Like that's not even 8K. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you could upscale and it would look good, but like it's not an 8K system.
Like I'm looking at the PS5 Pro to be able to handle 4K 120 with ray tracing turned on.
If you're lucky. Really.
Right. Like 8K? 8K?
No.
A real game running at 8K?
Like maybe you could do an 8K upscale with no ray tracing.
Vincent says maybe Resogun 2 is 8K.
Yeah.
When do you think we'll see this mid-gen refresh?
2026-ish, 2025 at the earliest. Like,
yeah.
You got to get the supply problems fixed first. Like that's
not going to be fixed until like the end of next year,
if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Like, 2024 is probably a more realistic expectation. Like that's like, why would you do that? You haven't gotten all the PS5s in the hands of people who want them already. There's no reason to do a power up refresh with it.
Yeah.
Like you're leaving money on the table and you're leaving customers unsatisfied. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason to go through all that when you still can sell the current product at the current price. Like,
yeah, and I mean, not only the current price. You go on eBay, they're still selling for $900. Like
the reason the PS4 Pro was in part introduced because the PS4 was a horrendously underpowered system and sales had slowed down. It needed something to kind of refresh itself and appeal to the core demographic that wanted to play these games without all the performance problems. And sure enough, it did. It worked.
Yep.
But there is no need for a PS5 Pro in that regard right now. There will be eventually. But you don't even have games coming out right now, or even that soon that are only on PS5, only next gen, that are going to be like, because that's the thing, that's the concern, is like you run into the next gen only games and it's going to be like, oh, these are not performing the way we hoped they would.
Right.
And then you might need a pro refresh for the systems. But right now, I don't think you need to worry. But, I'm sure it's in the works. I'm sure they're talking about it and thinking about it and planning it. But next year, 2024,
Matt, I feel like
that doesn't make any sense.
Like 3 games that actually make use of next-gen hardware.
I mean, they all do in terms of performance. But like if you're dealing with something that's really based around ray tracing and taking advantage of what they can do.
From scratch to run on these machines, I feel like I've played like 3 games.
Well, they don't exist yet.
Yeah. The whole thing seems absurd to me.
We're going to start seeing that stuff this fall, probably. I mean, we've seen Matrix and Ratchet and Demon Souls, but, that's about it. I mean, you've seen, And, sure, a power boost is always welcome, but, like, not this soon. Not before there's any reason to say, like, hey, you got to let people experience the failures of the existing hardware before you can sell them new hardware.
Vincent is asking, like, maybe they would do it to be able to increase the price of PS5 so that they have the two SKUs, one at $5.99 and the other at $8 or whatever they're selling up for on eBay now.
Maybe, yeah, if people are willing to pay that price for an existing PS5, they might be willing to pay that price for at retail for a more powerful one.
But the cost
guess. But now you're doubling up on the thing you can't make enough of.
Right.
So I don't know what.
It's like you can't get enough components for PS5 right now. What makes you think you're going to be able to get chips or anything else you need for the PS5 Pro? Just nothing about this makes any sense at all.
It really just all sounds like misinterpretation and wishful thinking.
Yeah. And I don't even understand why people want this. Like, I don't feel like I've got hardly anything out of my PS5 so far.
No.
Like, I'm disappointed in what I've got out of my Xbox Series X and my PlayStation 5 so far. I don't feel like I've played very many quote-unquote next-gen games at this point. Like, how about you deliver some of those first, and then we worry about refreshing the hardware?
Yeah, it feels like, these new systems feel like I bought a new PC. Basically.
A little bit, yeah.
Like the old stuff runs better, and I don't worry about whether the frame rate's going to be bad or whatever on things.
I don't have to fiddle around with the settings anymore to get stuff to run well. Like, it just does.
But there's not a lot of stuff that's just like, oh wow, they could never have done that on the PS4 Pro kind of thing.
Yeah, I very rarely do I feel that way about PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X for that matter. So I think this is all bunk. Do not get your hopes up. If you're someone who hasn't got a PS5 yet and you're like, maybe I'll wait now to get the PS5
want a PS5
Pro.
And you can get a PS5, get the PS5.
Yeah. And also, by the way, if you are someone who does not have a PlayStation 5 yet and wants one, there's no reason you should not have one by now. Go to PlayStation.com, get on the waiting list, and just wait. I had a buddy who did this. He wanted it. He's trying to find a PS5 at the holidays. Over the holidays, they were selling for like $1,000 or more on eBay. He texted me. He's like, "Bro, I'm not paying $1,000." I'm like, "No, don't pay $1,000." I'm like, "Do you need it right now?" And he's like, "No, I just want one." And I'm like, "Just go to PlayStation.com, get put on the waiting list." He got his PS5 6 weeks later. So instead of doing all this crazy crap, following Wario64, whoever else it is on Twitter now, who's trying to lead you to Walmart or whatever to pick, just get on the waiting list and you'll get one, like in like a month or less. It just, that's how it's working. There's really no excuse to not have one unless you just really don't want one, and that's obviously your choice, and I totally understand that. Yeah. And someone's asking about Roller Champions. You're gonna have to watch the show Emperor Dread. I talked about it for about 20 some minutes, so you have to watch the archive for that. But yeah, I think PS5 Pro, bunch of crap, YouTube channel trying to get views. That type of thing is going on. TCL trying to drum up interest in its 8K TVs. Obviously, AMD isn't going to put out a false report about new chips that it's working on. But just because it's working on new chips, it doesn't mean that it's going to be for a PS5 Pro. It could be for Nintendo. Who knows? Wouldn't that be awesome if they're actually building a decent chip for a Nintendo console?
It'd be very out of character.
It would be, and I highly doubt it, but we can dream. So there you go. Both Matt and I believe the rumors about a PS5 Pro are completely bogus, completely bunk. I mean, we both think eventually one will show up.
Yeah,
but we think it is not going to be like next year or early the year after that. We think it's way, way down the road until they can get the production of the base PS5 under control and they can actually get units out to retail. Commander Fett says, I got super lucky and went to a GameStop over winter break that had some. Wow. I have never seen a PlayStation 5 on store shelves. Have you yet?
Mm-mm.
I've never seen one. Over the holidays, I did see some Xbox Series X at Walmart and Target in the little town I was in.
I've seen some Xboxes.
I've never seen a PlayStation 5 on a store shelf.
No,
ever.
Never seen one in the wild.
Never. Maybe someday. It's really crazy. But you got lucky, bro. They must have just put them out. Al Cabone says, GameStop had PS5s in store this weekend. My local store had 8 units, and I walked right in and bought one for my nephew. No line or anything.
Wow.
Lucky. You're really lucky. Yep. So anyway, yeah. Cinetyke says, TCL feels like completely speculative and trying to make you panic by 8K TVs. Exactly. That's exactly what TCL is doing. It has incentive for you to believe that a new, more powerful PlayStation 5 is coming. Always, when you're trying to figure out if something is true or not, always look for the ulterior motive. Does this person or this source have a reason to be fabricating something. And if they do, you should take it with a huge grain of salt. And more likely, you should probably say that's probably not true. That's just the way it is. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next. I forgot what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about a third game that I played this week. And of the 3 I played, this was the worst one. Matt.
I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah, well, this is also on Game Pass, by the way. And what we're going to talk about is Pac-Man Museum Plus. Now, I am an old Pac-Man fan. Pac-Man is one of the first video games I ever played. One of the first video games I ever played in an arcade.
Pac-Man is one of my earliest missed calls.
What do you mean?
Because I remember I must have been, what was that, 1980?
When it came out?
Yeah. So I was 4. And I remember seeing it in an arcade and looking at it and thinking it was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, who the hell wants to play that crap? It turned out a lot of people wanted to play that crap.
Well, they did, but Matt, I would argue that your little 4-year-old brain was right on the money. Because I have gone back, and this has 14 different Pac-Man games.
There were a lot of them.
14 different Pac-Man games, and they're all crap. They are all crap. Like, it is astounding to me that Pac-Man has survived all this time on one game. The first game. And I would even argue that even the first game isn't good anymore.
Ms. Pac-Man's better.
Ms. Pac-Man is better, but I don't think it's good either. The thing about
I think Ms. Pac-Man is good if you're using the speed mod. Like,
maybe.
Where you speed it up, that like a lot of like those cocktail machines in the bars have. Like to me this looks like slow motion now.
Well, first of all, Matt, I can't even control this game using the Xbox Elite controller. The D-pad, forget it. The analog stick, you'll see. I end up stopping all the time at intersections.
Yeah, I mean, you really need an 8-way joystick for this.
You do. Like, I could not play it with the stick on the Xbox Elite controller. I could not play it with the D-pad on the Elite controller. Constantly, I go to make a turn at a corner, and I just stop and get jammed in the corner. It was so frustrating. But beyond the control issues that I had playing this, and in all honesty, pretty much all the other ones as well, because the controls work the same in all of them, the game itself is just not good. It's like, I still remember the pattern for the first, 3 boards in this, which is crazy. Like, back in the day, Matt, did you ever buy one of those books?
Oh, yeah, how to master Pac-Man or whatever, yeah.
It was a thing, people. You would go to the newsstand, and there would be, 20 different versions of Pac-Man cheat books, where they literally just showed you the path that you needed to take through each map to clear it without ever losing a
memorizing what each of the ghosts did and how they target you.
But it didn't matter. As long as you followed that exact path that you're supposed to follow, you could complete each...
Right, but the real advanced play was knowing how the ghosts worked and manipulating them to be where you wanted them to be.
Right. And I still remember the first boards, but I don't remember anything after that. Back in the day, I knew the first 3. And without knowing those patterns, this game is just so random. It's all luck, pretty much. Like, whether the guy turns left or right and, eat you or not.
But none of that's random. Like, the ghosts are completely predictable if you know how each one works.
They are, yeah. But, am I going to,
you'd have to relearn all that.
I'm not going to do that.
For what reason?
Yeah, for why? Exactly. So, I didn't even have that much fun playing the OG Pac-Man. And then... There's something weird about the license. Now, you would think Bandai Namco, they own Pac-Man. They should have license.
No, there was a whole weird thing with that back in the day.
It's still going on, Matt.
And Pac-Man Jr. was a problem.
Pac-Man Jr., Miss Pac-Man. They cannot have Miss Pac-Man in this game. So they've renamed her to, Pac-Woman or some crap.
Pac-Woman?
And there's another one called, Pac-Mom.
Pepper?
It's
her
weird.
name was Pepper in the cartoon.
It's so weird how they renamed a lot of this stuff because they can't use Miss Pac-Man. And Miss Pac-Man is not in this. But, as I said...
Pac-Mom is pretty funny.
As I said,
So there's no Ms. Pac-Man in this collection?
No.
At all? Even, under a different name?
Nope. It's not there at all. And
that's trash.
It is trash. Yeah, absolutely. But there are still 14 games, Matt. There's Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, Pac and Pal, Pac-Land, Pac-Mania, Pac-Attack, Pac-in-Time. One thing I will say is, looking at all the titles of these Pac-Man games, I was like, man, there was a bunch of different things I could have renamed, Pac-Attack, whenever we did the new Pac-Factor. I tried to have him call it Pac-in-Business, and he was like, nope, it's Pac-Factor. But there's a million other things I could have pitched to him. Pac-Man Arrangement, Pac-Man Championship Edition, Pac-Motos, Pac-N-Roll Remix, Pac-Man Battle Royale, and Pac-Man 256, which honestly is probably the best game in this entire compilation, to be honest. The most recent one, really. And that's from like 2015, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Miss Pac-Man is missing in action.
Why do you need this when you have Champion Edition?
What'd you say?
Why do you need this when you have Champion Edition?
Right, another game that's better than pretty much all of these. So as you saw at the beginning of the B-roll, there's like this hub. So as you play all these games, generally you have to play each game twice, and then that unlocks another game to play. And as you do that, your little arcade hub becomes populated with arcade cabinets. You also like get ghosts that will show up in the hub as you complete like score challenges and things like that. So basically you're playing to collect points that you then use to buy things either out of a capsule machine or a vending machine to fill your hub with objects. It's all cosmetic and pointless and stupid. Yeah. This game is selling for $30 on Switch.
Wow.
$30 on Switch, $20 on PS4 and Xbox One. This is happening a lot lately, Matt, where the Switch version of games costs $10 more than the other versions. I'm just guessing the cartridge costs of manufacturing.
Like even digital?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually. I just checked the prices on GameStop.
I would never get this physical. Like, imagine putting a cartridge in when you wanted to play this. Like,
Matt, I would never get this, period. Now, again, this is free on Xbox Game Pass right now. So some of you youngins who didn't grow up in the arcades like Matt and I did, there may be a morbid curiosity for you to play these games. I don't think it'll last very long, but since it's on Game Pass, you can check it out for free. I would not even pay $10 for this, Matt. To me, this game is like $4.99. Now, obviously, you can insert as many credits as you want and keep playing these games, and you can finally get to the end of Pac-Man if you want to. Does Pac-Man have a kill screen?
It does. Donkey Kong kill screen. Was it 256? I think it is.
Yeah.
That's when the memory overflows.
Okay. So if you want to get to the Pac-Man kill screen, you can do it with this.
Coming up, if anyone's interested, Donkey Kong kill screen.
Yeah. That's right, from King of Kong. He's walking around the arcade trying to get people to come over and check it out. That's funny. But here, I'll just skim through the rest of this B-roll very quickly so you can see what else is in this. This Pac-Man that we were showing right there, you can actually jump over the ghosts. Yeah. It is the easiest Pac-Man. You can see it right there.
Pac-Mania.
It's like, why? Why does this game even exist if you can jump over the ghosts?
Because this was around, what was that? I was in high school when this came out. This was like when they were in that desperate period of trying to figure out how to reinvent all that.
They're still in that desperate period.
The one thing I will say, like, what the game is Pac-World in this?
Yep.
The side scroller.
Yep.
That's where Miyamoto got the idea for Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers.
Wait, it predates Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
This?
Yeah.
And this is crap.
And that was
it's so bad.
This game is bad, but this game is why Super Mario Brothers happened.
Really?
Miyamoto credits this with like, oh, you could do this. I could do this with Mario.
I'm surprised this came before.
Yeah, it did. It was on computers. It was not an NES game originally.
It's so bad.
It's old, old.
Most of the games on this compilation are terrible.
This doesn't even look good enough to be an NES game. Look at it.
Yeah.
NES games look better than this.
It looks like it's made in paint.
Yep.
I say that all the time, but this time especially, it looks like that game was made in Microsoft Paint.
Yeah. Sable looks better than this.
It does, absolutely. I did not know that, Matt.
Yeah.
Learn something every episode of GameFace.
This is either the first or one of the earliest side scrollers.
Really?
Like a platform in terms of like a platform. I mean, obviously there's like the shooters like Scramble and Defender and stuff, but like in terms of like a character game, I think this is the first one.
Wow, I did not know that, but it is so terrible. I could see that it would be the first side-scrolling platformer.
Not a lot of parallax in play here, boys.
No, there's not a lot of anything in play here. It's awful. And honestly, almost all the games in this are awful. They're all bad. There's like a versus.
Pac-Man does not have a great history.
No.
In the end,
that's what smacked me in
the face.
That's
why Champion Edition was such a surprise, was because it was good.
Yep. That is why I said when I first started this topic is, wow. I have some nostalgia goggles for Pac-Man, because this franchise has been trash pretty much its entire time.
I mean, Pac-Man was really good for its time. I certainly understand why it was a big deal then.
Yeah, when it came out, for sure. But in hindsight, if like of all the old arcade games, I think it's one of the worst.
I mean, the challenge of it has been surpassed a number. Navigating a maze like that is not especially interesting to us now, I don't think.
Yeah. I really struggled to play this game, and again, I'm OG arcade dude who grew up with these games, and
I mean, it's notable that there are still like there's a lot of classic arcade game permutations and versions you can get now. Not a lot of Pac-Man clones.
No, what? Gee, I wonder why that is. Yeah,
like you still see Breakout clones, you still see like Galaga Space Invaders clones, you still see stuff like that. You don't see Pac-Man clones.
Yeah, because those games withstood the test of time. Yeah. This game did not. Yeah, it just hasn't.
So you basically have to put Pac-Man's name on it to leverage the nostalgia if you want any of that to work.
Yeah.
And so they have.
Yep.
Except not the one anybody wants, because Ms. Pac-Man, I think, is pretty universally considered the best one.
Oh, for sure. I think people generally say Ms. Pac-Man is way better than Pac-Man, and it should be. It's the sequel to Pac-Man. Yeah, it should be better.
It's a iteration. That didn't work.
I never figured out what to do.
That springboard, you're supposed to press jump at the right time, and it bounces him all the way over. But
I don't know.
It's a timing thing.
You must have to the 2 frames or whatever to get it.
It's one of those old school you do this perfectly or you do the game again.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Pac-Man Museum Plus. I give it a minus. I did not have any fun playing this game at all.
Pac and Pal. I've never played Pac and Pal.
Yeah. You want to see it?
Sure.
I mean, this is the only entertainment value that I found from this game was I never heard of this one.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this.
This is weird. You have to eat the cards, and that will unlock the doorways to get to the fruit. And to finish each stage, you have to eat all the fruit. Yeah.
They really had one idea.
It's a one-trick pony, and they never evolved past it. Matt, what was the one? I thought it was Super Pac-Man, but it's in this, and it's not. What was the Pac-Man game that had the pinball machine built into it?
That's Pac-Man Jr.
Pac-Man Jr. Okay. I was like, how are they going to handle that on this? And then I never came across it, so, yeah.
Oh, blue Pac-Man. Look at that.
Yeah. So anyway.
Is that the Pal?
Yeah. Is that Pac-Pal?
Is that Pal-Man?
I think it is. That's the Pac-Pal. Yeah.
He runs at a lower frame rate.
So anyway, Pac-Man Museum Plus, $30 on Switch, $20 on PlayStation and Xbox. I would spend $5 for this max. And that's only if you have a crazy curiosity for the old days of the arcade. Otherwise, stay far, far away. If you're really curious and you are a subscriber to Game Pass, give it a go. You may find 2 out of the 14 games that are actually kind of fun to play. As someone who comes from that world, I did not really find any of them fun to play, unfortunately. So
I mean, if Ms. Pac-Man's not in there, I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah. Do you have a cocktail table with Ms. Pac-Man? Or Pac-Man?
It doesn't work, but I have, it's got an emulator in it, like a PC in it, but the BIOS got corrupted.
Oh, it did?
I'd have to go in and mess with it again, and I've just never...
And it's probably this ancient PC.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that table, I took that table home from G4 because nobody wanted it, and it's one of those old Dream Arcade machines, so it's got to be 12 years old at this point.
So it's like Windows 98.
If that, yeah.
Probably XP, more realistically.
Yeah, or something like some old Windows 2000 machine laying around.
It's hilarious. So anyway, there you go. That's Pac-Man Museum Plus.
Yeah, it played 30 or 40 games, and I think one of them was Namco Museum, so Pac-Man's in there somewhere.
Got you. Okay. It's time to move on to our last topic of episode 302.
It currently just holds my Lego Star Destroyer.
No. Yeah, it just sits on top of it. Yeah. We're going to talk next, and lastly, about another kind of rumor that's been making the rounds this week, but this one seems to have a lot more, I don't know. It has real things that are backing it up, and generally the information is coming from people who have broken stories in the past who have been reliable. And that is that Xbox Cloud Gaming is working on a stick codenamed Keystone that people will be able to buy so that they can use xCloud on their TVs or any other device that'll take a stick, and they'll be able to stream games through whatever piece of hardware they have lying around that will accept a thumbstick.
As long as you have a really good Wi-Fi connection in the area.
Yeah, you'd have to have a really good Wi-Fi connection. You'd also have to have a Bluetooth controller, obviously, but most people have that at this point because all our console controllers at this point are Bluetooth. And to be fair, you can plug them all pretty much into anything and they work. So that's kind of tackled already. This information is coming from Windows Central's Jez Corden. He was also the guy who broke some of the information on the Indiana Jones stuff not being an Xbox exclusive. He had a busy week. So essentially, according to rumors, this stick is a modernized HDMI streaming device that runs Xbox Game Pass and its cloud gaming service. Microsoft is, however, taking some time to explore additional iterations of the product before bringing it to market. And Windows Central actually got a quote from Microsoft that reads, "Our vision for Xbox cloud gaming is unwavering. Our goal is to enable people to play the games they want on the devices they want, anywhere they want. As announced last year, we've been working on a game streaming device, codenamed Keystone, that could be connected to any TV or monitor without the need for a console. As part of any technical journey, we are constantly evaluating our efforts, reviewing our learnings, and ensuring that we are bringing value to our customers. We have made the decision to pivot away from the current iteration of the Keystone device. We will take our learnings and refocus our efforts on a new approach that will allow us to deliver Xbox cloud gaming to more players around the world in the future." So it looks like they're working on a new revision of the device, because Windows Central actually had images of the first stick and everything. It got like all the details on it. So Microsoft is basically saying, yeah, you got some stuff there, but that's not the final product. We're working on a new revision of it, which makes sense. From what Windows Central understands, Keystone had been in development for a couple of years, and Microsoft has not given up on the product, is continuing to finalize the product's feature set. Matt, do you think xCloud works with something like this, a stick that people, do you think maybe probably buy for cheap?
I would think it's for sale, yeah.
$10, $20 would be my guess.
Maybe more than that.
Or maybe more than that. Or do you think that xCloud lives and thrives being built into electronics like televisions? Which do you think is going to be the magic bullet that sets xCloud off?
Neither. I think this is another dead end. It's another.
Really?
It's another solution in search of a problem. It's just Luna again. It's just Stadia again. It's a weird little trick that they can do, but no one's going to need it for any real reason.
But it keeps you from having to spend $500 some on an Xbox
at the cost of an incredibly suboptimal experience.
But this is them not trying to reach us. This is them trying to reach the general audience, who maybe they do want to play the new Halo or the new Elder Scrolls.
Do they?
You don't think that...
Who has the 4K TV and the super robust Wi-Fi connection and the Bluetooth controller but doesn't want to buy a game console? Like, I don't buy it.
Really?
I don't buy it. It's nothing.
So you don't think console tech built into televisions or even on a stick is ever going to be a thing?
Not to any appreciable degree. Not to the degree that like Pactors talked about it replacing game consoles. No. I don't think I don't see any use case for this. Like who cares? Doesn't care enough about video games to own video game hardware, but does care enough to have all that stuff ready to go. I don't get it. I don't know who this person is. And or if it's like a thing where it's like, oh, you don't want to drag your Xbox everywhere and you're going on vacation or whatever. Where are you going that you have a 4K TV or a TV you can plug that into with robust Wi-Fi access and your Bluetooth controller, but you don't have a system? Like, I just don't get it.
I don't think it's any of that. I think it's the person who wants to spend $100 instead of $547 to play whatever game has caught their eye.
I guess, but it just strikes me as another one of these, like, we hope these people are out there somewhere, maybe. Things.
I think a lot of it will come down to the marketing. If Microsoft can get the messaging out there to these people and if they can see it. Because not knowing, it's just like Sifted. Like, there's 2 billion gamers in the world. There's probably 70,000 gamers who have ever even heard of Sifted. Maybe. There's this huge addressable market that we've never touched because we don't have the money for marketing. But Microsoft does have the money for marketing, and it could, conceivably, if it wants to, it could reach these people.
Yeah, but these people are playing mobile games.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I don't see anyone who's interested in the kind of games Xbox plays just goes and gets an Xbox.
They spend the $550.
Yeah. And anyone who doesn't care that much, doesn't care about that kind of game, they're just playing their mobile games. They're playing their mobile games or playing their little solitaire games or whatever on PC. You know, they're inventing a market in their head for this, and I guess, you know, I'm sure you have to take the shot. You got to shoot your shot. You got to, if they're out there, you got to try. But like Amazon tried, Google tried. You could chalk some of that up to like, you know, them not knowing the market and not knowing the industry and like just not knowing where to put their eggs. So, like, but if Microsoft does this and no one fucking gives a shit, can we finally stop talking about streaming games? Because it's not a thing. It's
I'll be
never
honest with you, that probably would be the final nail in the coffin.
Good, bring it on, because it's not a thing. It's not. This person doesn't exist. Like, not in the numbers they're talking about.
I mean, I haven't seen them like say numbers as far as like what they
because they don't know, because no one knows, because these people are hypothetical.
But the amount of money that they have invested in xCloud would lead you to believe that they do think that there's a sizable market out there.
Or people in boardroom meetings have been convinced there is.
Right.
Like, an entire network hinged. I was at an entire TV network that hinged its entire existence on the idea that people wanted interactivity in their television watching, which was completely wrong. But we still spent 5 years doing it and untold millions of dollars doing it. Like, bad and wrong ideas happen in the corporate world all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to follow them to their natural end, because otherwise you have to admit you were wrong. And that's the worst thing. It's much better to have a product fail than to stand up and say, like, the product is a bad idea and we should stop it. There's a lot more shame in the corporate world for doing that than there is for, like, blowing a product wrong.
Oddly enough, Matt, if Microsoft and Xbox had actually had this up and running and ready to go for the last couple years, when they were unable to produce enough hardware to satisfy demand, they actually might have had something. You get people in, and some of them get used to it, that just play single-player games and don't play multiplayer games, or the lag isn't as big a deal for them. They might be happy with just playing it through their TV.
Maybe, but it's not. Then where were these people for Stadia? Where are they for Luna? Like, where are these people?
Again, that may be marketing, though. I mean, have you seen a TV advertisement for Luna?
No.
I haven't.
You wouldn't know Luna exists.
No.
By the way,
if you didn't watch GameFace.
But Stadia's got the wrong...
I did see a couple ads for Stadia, but not much.
Stadia's got the wrong business model, because they wanted $60 for something that disappears when they give up on the platform, which they did. Like, I mean, I called that before it even existed.
Yeah.
And, like, I assume this is going to work on a Game Pass model. Something like that.
Yep.
I just don't get, like, the instant I play one of those cloud things, I know I'm playing a cloud thing. It feels like I'm playing in mud. Like, it just, and I know a lot of people wouldn't notice that, the same way they don't notice auto motion smoothing or the frame rate stuff on TVs by default. But, like, I don't, who are these people? Like, who desperately wants to play Halo but wants to play it, like, with lag on a stick? Like, I don't get it. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, Halo is a bad example because it's multiplayer driven, but I would argue that
because no one wants to play Halo Infinite right now.
I would argue single player games, a lot of people would be okay playing them streaming. Games like Elden Ring, probably not.
You're going to be okay playing streaming until the instant you have an internet hiccup and your game goes all weird, and people are like, how come that's happening? Like, like the use case doesn't function, it doesn't work. Like, I know, like, everyone's like, oh, it's a way better now. It's way better, but it's still not good. Yeah. It's still not good. And the problem that when it's like, oh, people don't care about, casuals don't care. Yeah, but you know what casuals do care about? Consistency. And as soon as it starts getting weird because the internet's not working as fast as it should, because they have subpar internet connections, because they are casuals who don't have the high-tech stuff, like, they're going to be like, oh, this doesn't work right. I don't want to play this. It doesn't work right. I don't know who this person is. You need a high-tech, invested person who has high-end machinery, high-end internet connection, high-end everything, except they don't want to pay $500 for a game console. Who is this person?
Yeah. I think it's the person who's cut the cord. Someone who's, like, got rid of, like, DirecTV or cable, and now they use YouTube TV.
But I know tons of people.
Because those people already have hardwired their TVs, or they're sure that they have solid, like, Wi-Fi to their TV. I guess. Those people, it might work. But you're right. For the vast majority of the market, it's not gonna. It wouldn't work with my mom in my mom's house. Like, it just wouldn't. Her Wi-Fi stinks.
Yeah, like, the vast majority of the internet in this country and really around the world is not good enough to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Might be good enough to do mobile games, but you got a phone for that.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I have no idea what they're talking about. I guess it's a nice thing to have in your back pocket when you've also got, like, the Game Pass thing and Xbox Live and all that, and you got to keep up with, like, what PlayStation seems to be doing with PlayStation Now or whatever. That's, they're changing. Obviously, it's becoming just PlayStation Plus. Like, it seems like a thing you have to have in case it becomes a thing, but I just don't think it's ever going to become a thing because it's not a good tech.
Yeah.
It's not good tech. It doesn't work. Like maybe in 20, 30 years when everybody's internet's better, if everyone's internet's better, I don't know. It doesn't. There's too many weird little speed bumps to your use case scenario for it, and then that's on top of having to find someone who actually wants that instead of just the simplicity of like here's a game console, you plug it in and it works.
Well, the other kink in the hose right now is that what would have convinced people to sign up for something like this is having those day one exclusives to play on Game Pass, and we just aren't getting any. Yeah. Like this whole year, there's really no big exclusive.
There's not much happening this year in that regard.
Maybe that's another reason why they're like, you know what, we're going back to the drawing board. We're going to make this device better because no one's going to buy it right now anyway. I don't know. But this rumor, I mean,
if you don't have a game console, you can't play anything. So who cares what's exclusive? This mythical person should care about every game because they can't play anything because they don't own a game console.
Yeah.
So who is this person? Like that's what I don't get. Is like, I don't know who this. I can't picture in my head who this demographic is.
I also struggle to believe that TV manufacturers like TCL would be like, yeah, we'll put this extra chipset in our TV.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Because
the stick thing is a thing, sure, but like that's not the whole building into the TV is not happening unless you have a direct deal with that particular manufacturer, and that is not any way to get to critical mass because you're just dealing with one manufacturer and there's too many TV manufacturers.
Well, if you're Microsoft too, in order to get the TV manufacturers to put this hardware in their TVs, you're going to have to pay them.
Yeah, you have to lay out some cash for that.
Yes, you're basically then paying for that stick to just be in that TV by default instead of having the consumer pay for the stick. Yeah. So, yeah.
To say nothing of people who are like, they're hooking things up to this thing and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to use up a whole HDMI. A lot of the more low-end TVs have like 2 or maybe 3, and you're going to use a whole one up on this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't see it.
Dan Boy says parents for Fortnite and Minecraft. Fortnite's
not going to work too well on that.
I mean, my little nephews who are from 5 to like 10, they would never play Fortnite with lag. Believe me, man, they know when the game is lagging and when their shots aren't landing the way that they're supposed to land. Like, and they're like 6. So the parents might be like, playing the Fortnite. The kids will know right away that it is not up to scratch.
Yeah,
so
the kids are going to be like, this doesn't work.
Yeah, like this is broken.
Yeah.
This isn't the way it's supposed to play. What else? Yeah, Dan Boy's just saying for parents and kids, it would be cheaper and easier. And you're right, but the experience is worse. But
not for the things that, for like some of the really baby game stuff. Like I guess Minecraft. But as soon as you go online, you're dealing with a situation that like is just not going to be fun. Like Fortnite's not going to work for that. Minecraft, you don't have to play Minecraft online.
Yeah.
But like you're like some of the weird little, I've seen my friends' kids playing weird little like games I've never heard of them. So I guess that would work. But like Roblox, that's not going to work.
No. Trying to sort through the store and everything. It's like those kids know how fast that stuff's supposed to work.
Yeah, you're just laying another layer on top of this thing, and it's just going to make it more difficult and more unreliable. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not for anything.
I think Xbox is just trying to get Game Pass in as many locations as possible, and I don't blame it for that.
At the very least, I mean, Microsoft's got money to burn. At this point, you could just be, it could just be proof of concept. It could be like, look, that doesn't work. We don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
I'd love that to be the case. Like if Microsoft puts that stuff out with a lot of exclusives to them on a reasonable price, and then just nothing happens, like, can we just stop talking about? Like, can you stop trying to make fetch happen?
Now, I'll be honest. Of the big 3, Microsoft or Xbox is the one that I would give the pass to for working on it. If it were PlayStation or Nintendo, I would be like, you working on this is taking away from something else you could be working on. With Microsoft, not so much.
Yeah, Microsoft has.
They're so big.
Like, it doesn't even need to be the gaming division for that. Like that's just like stuff they work on. They work on everything.
So I'm like not pissed off that Microsoft is working on this.
I'm just
and like,
tired
and if
of
it does
hearing
launch, I'm not going to be mad and be like that's dumb or anything like that. Even if it serves 50,000 people get on the service or whatever, cool. Like it's not hurting me in any way. It goes back to the same argument of putting an easy mode in a From Software game. Like, people shouldn't care as long as it doesn't affect them. As long as they still get their more challenging version and it's tuned just for them, why would they care that somebody else can play on easy mode? Same deal with this. As long as I can keep buying a console to play my games on, why would I care that somebody else is playing the same games on a stick or on their TV? I don't.
Yeah, the only thing I care about is having to sit through the presentation of it in the direct.
We're having to talk about it here on GameFace.
Yeah, I'm just like, just stop wasting my time. Like,
yeah, I hear you. So anyway,
I mean, at least Phil Harrison won't be talking about it this time.
Yeah. I would guess that this is now probably a year and a half, 2 years away. And probably if they do find a TV partner, it'll be like one. And it could be like TCL, because they probably wouldn't want to, like, they can't work with Sony, obviously. And they probably wouldn't want to work with one of the higher end brands like LG or whatever, because the expectations are higher for those TVs. The cost is probably going to be higher. TCL might be right in that sweet spot where they're like, you know what? How about we give you $3 per unit to put this little chipset in there? And TCL might be like, okay. They might agree to it. So we'll see where it goes. I don't think we're going to hear anything about this for quite a while, though. Dan Boy also says, I don't get why it can't be an app. Why is there even a stick?
Because the hardware to do that is not in a
It's not built into the TV, yeah.
You're not like rendering everything, but you do need something that's going to like process that image and do it really fast and not use up power that is used for processing the image on the TV. You know, you got to give the signal to the TV, and if the chipset's not already in there doing that, you can't take up that chipset in the TV for it.
Yeah, it's not like a YouTube app or a YouTube TV app where they just use the existing hardware in the TV to make it work. They need very specific hardware to do this. So, I mean, you also have to make sure that even a Bluetooth controller is recognized by your TV.
Yeah.
Which I would assume most TVs do that, but I don't know. I haven't tried to see if I can just plug it into USB and see if it's like I can navigate my TV with a controller.
I don't know.
I haven't tried it. So anyway, there you go. That's the bulk of GameFace 302. However, we have a pleasant surprise here for the end of the show, and that is that Name That Game has returned. And we are going to do Name That Game again. The last time we did it, a bunch of people reached out. I said that we didn't have anything to give away, and people were like, no. I have some codes laying around. And so we're going to give away a free game to someone today who wins Name That Game. For those of you who haven't played before, haven't participated, we've changed it over time. The new Name That Game is I show you guys a collection of 5 screenshots, and you need to guess what game the screenshots are
what
from.
really happens is he shows us one screenshot, and you guess it immediately.
And I melt down.
Yes.
And I get really angry over it because I spent a lot of time on it. Well, I did it. I've done it again. I will see how I did this time. Obviously, the last couple times it's been a disaster. And so I took that information and I tried to make it even more difficult.
It's just going to be a giant pixel now.
It's just one pixel that I just stretch out.
Here you go. Green. What was green, motherfucker?
I haven't gone that far with this week's installment of Name That Game. But if you guys guess this in the first 2 images this time, the next one is going balls to the wall. No way in hell you'll ever guess it. Literally zooming in on like a shoe. Like, that's where we're going after this one.
Oh, people know shoes.
Exactly. Because they do. That's the funny part. Because let's just be honest, you guys are just too damn good. So how it works is I'll go through a series of 5 screenshots. Now, the way I design it is the first one should not give it away at all, and the 5th one should make it obvious to you guys. And you are trying to beat Matt. So you need to guess the name of the game before Matt does. Now, you guys win all ties in chat because there's a little bit of a delay. So if Matt names it, and I look over and like in a beat or two, one of you guys answers, then you guys get it. So we want you guys to win so you can take home a free game. And without further ado, I think we're ready to rock this. Let me get the sound effects up here ready to go. And get the first screenshot lined up. Are you ready, Matt?
Sure.
Are you guys ready? Oh, Gohan's the first time he's playing the screenshot version. All right, here we go. The first screenshot for Name That Game. I'll show each one for, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, something like that before I take it down. So I'll give you guys plenty of time to try to figure it out. And here is the first screenshot for Name That Game. I'm keeping an eye on chat. See if you guys come up with it.
It looks familiar. What, DMC5?
Yeah. Yeah. They got it.
All right.
First person just said DMC. And then, let me see who the first person was to say DMC5. It's absurd. You guys are absurd. And like everybody got it. I think Not Cirque was the first one. Mega Drive guy got Devil May Cry, but Not Cirque.
Not Cirque said 5 first.
Got DMC5.
Got the actual game first.
Yep. This is a joke. You guys are too good. Man. How'd they get that one, Matt?
I don't know.
How did they get that one so fast?
There actually is a... I can tell that's Capcom's engine.
Yeah.
Like there's a quality to the graphics that I could tell it was. I definitely knew it was. What is that? What is the name of that engine?
Oh,
Like,
it's the RE engine, isn't it?
Like, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The RE engine?
Yeah.
I could definitely. There's a texture quality to it that you know.
Everything has an edge on it. It almost looks like the old Unreal Engine games. This is ridiculous. I don't know what I have to do to you guys to not get this like immediately.
And I knew the era because of the particle effects in the background. Like you can tell that was like last gen.
You guys are ridiculous. You're so good at this. I don't know how I can make it any harder. Literally, like it's like you said. I'm gonna have to go to like a pixel for each of the images. Mm-hmm. Not Sir, have you won already? I think you may have. And if that's the case, maybe you pass this one on to the next person who got DMC5. That was OCD Master 1. But if you haven't won yet, congratulations, and I'll give you your round of applause for your victory. And while you're listening to your round of applause, Emperor Dread guessed Prototype. That was a good guess too. And while you're hearing your applause, here are the rest of the images. Here's image 2. That may have been better for image 1. Like, that may have not given it away.
Maybe? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like somebody would have known that.
It's like his little jet skateboard.
Yeah, I think people would know the jet skateboard.
Maybe.
That's kind of iconic for that game.
Maybe. Here's the third image.
That would have probably been a better... I mean, that's the sword, part of the sword on that big guy. I don't know.
Maybe it's just impossible to do
I mean, that again, I would definitely know that's Capcom.
Really?
The instant I see that, I know that's Capcom.
It could be Square Enix.
Nah, it's Capcom.
I don't know. Square Enix
it doesn't look like Square
that
Enix's engine. It doesn't look. It's not the same thing.
I think it kind of does.
There's a visual. It does look a little bit like, but I can tell. Square Enix's engine has more like separation between the objects that move and the backgrounds.
Veritas says, never played the game and I knew it. How? Here's the fourth image. I figured the gun would give it away.
Yeah, the gun is... I mean, if you zoomed in and got the gun out of the frame, that would be a good first one.
I left that gun in there on purpose. Because this is the fourth image.
Right.
And there's actually dual guns there, and I cropped out the second gun because the dual gun would have definitely given it away. But I kept the one in there because I wanted people to mostly get it from this one. And then here's the final image. You guys definitely would have got it from that.
Yeah.
I keep trying, people. I keep trying, and I keep failing. Let's be honest, I keep failing at this miserably. You guys are just way better than I would ever guess, honestly. Because you didn't guess it.
No.
And I probably wouldn't have guessed it.
I definitely knew it was Capcom, but I wouldn't... I mean, I would have gotten to it eventually. But
yeah.
I was like running through all the last gen games.
Regis Scrub for Easy Allies. Shane, older games that more zoomed in. No, the older games are dead giveaways. They're easier to guess because you know immediately by just the quality of the visuals. Like I was hoping that zooming in on these screenshots might fool people, and it did because a couple people guessed Vanquish. I thought it might fool people into thinking it was a game from the prior gen. Like, I think...
A couple of people said Mass Effect because it does kind of look like a Leviathan.
Yeah, like, I think this through, and you guys just destroy it every time. Every time. It's really crazy. So anyway, there you go. Let's name that game. Not Cirque. If you have not won before, let me know. And just instant message me. You can do it here on Twitch. You can do it on Sifted. You can do it on Patreon, you can do it on Twitter, at Dinfire, wherever you want. Just reach out to me, and I'll hook you up with the code for a free game. Congratulations. And again, I thought for sure he had won before, but maybe not. Has he replied about that? Oh, yeah, I won. You can pass it on. Okay. Maybe don't play if you've already won one. Maybe when the year turns over, we'll reset, and people who already won can win again. So if you're passing it on...
That would be OCD Master 1.
Yeah, OCD Master 1. You are the winner. So reach out to me here on Twitch. Just DM me. You can DM me on Twitter, on Sifted, on Patreon, wherever. Just get at me, and I'll get you the code. And not, sir, thank you for passing the code on to somebody else. You're obviously very good at this if you've already won multiple times. Okay, we have some time to do some Q&A. Before we get going, Nox Adornitis, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, and I appreciate it. Mo Abyss, thank you for the tier 1 subs. That's awesome. I don't think I've seen you in here gifting subs before. Thank you very much, man or woman, depending on what you are. Anything else in here? Nope, now we're into questions. Okay. Danboy90. Hey, Matt, have you seen the new Top Gun? What do you think? I was blown away by some of the camera work with the jets. Before you talk about it, I just want to say I am blown away by the reviews of Top Gun. I saw them, and I could not believe them. And I texted Matt, and I was like, Matt, is this for effing real? Or is this people just losing their minds because they haven't seen a decent movie? And he said...
No, it's great.
I can't believe it.
I think Cruise will probably get a nomination for it.
Like an Oscar nomination?
I think he'll get a Best Actor nomination. Yeah.
Dude, that blows my freaking mind. How? How is it so good? Is it not corny like the 80s one was?
No, I think the closest comparison is like Rocky Balboa.
Really?
The Rocky movies, where it's just like they actually took the. I mean, there is a lot of fun stuff and crazy jet stuff, and there is a lot of slam bang action, and it does kind of turn into a little bit of a Mission Impossible thing by the end. But like, and like the mission they're on is essentially a real life Death Star trench run, but like it's a character study of Maverick as a person, like, and what's happened to him and how his life turned out and what he wants and what he's going to end up being.
Wow.
And it's really well done. Like Cruise does it really, Cruise really turns in a good performance, like a multifaceted thing. They do a lot of callbacks to like the elements of the first movie, but they earn them all. Like none of it feels like, hey, remember this? It feels like, oh yeah, this is just like the cycle of life kind of thing. The Val Kilmer appearance is great. That's a really nice scene between the two of them.
We have a friend who is like best friends with Val Kilmer. Do you know who I'm talking about? I don't want to say his name, but he used to be a PR guy in games, and he's just moved on to kind of just, I think he may be like independently wealthy. Like I think he's like a trust fund kid or whatever, because he doesn't really have to work, and he's just become kind of like this jet setter, and somehow he's became best friends with Val Kilmer. And after the movie came out on Friday, he just posted this huge thing on Facebook about his experience working with Val. He like apparently took him to all the shoots and everything, and was talking about how he knew then that the movie was going to be really good, and he was been waiting all this time because he didn't think people would even believe him if he told. Because I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, he was really, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Like Cruise, like was very, a big. Jerry Bruckheimer said, he's like, I went into this, to produce this one, and he's like, Tom Cruise is a better producer than I am now.
Wow.
And like he's learned a lot, and he's doing, he would drag the cast back into the planes and be like, I didn't get the real performance I wanted out of you with the G-forces. We're gonna do it again. And like they'd be like, what? And you can tell in this movie, like almost all the plane footage is real. And like
Tom Cruise isn't actually flying the jets, is he?
No, he tried to.
Did he?
He wanted to fly the F-18s. And the Navy said no. And then he offered to buy an F-18 for like $34 million, which is about double what an F-18 costs. And the Navy said, no, like you can't buy jet fighters, you weirdo. So
he's a weirdo.
So they had to do, he basically, it's a two-seater, and they basically mock it up so it looks like he's flying in the footage.
So he's actually in the back seat, someone's in the front flying.
But you can see... the actor's faces like compressing,
contorting,
and all that. And I mean, he is a pilot. Cruise is a pilot. His own personal P-51 Mustang is in the film.
No,
when you see that in the hangar in the trailer,
that's his
Tom
plane.
Cruise's plane.
No,
so he's not a stranger to the world of aviation. He knows what he's doing. But no matter who you are, you don't just get to fly an F-18.
Yeah,
like, that's not how it works. But it's great. It's really cool.
I am just completely
go see it on the biggest IMAX screen you can find.
It's crazy.
There's also a Screen X version which has 2 extra screens on the sides.
Oh, really?
And normally when movies do that, they extend it out with CG. This is actually using real footage.
Wow.
Of the cameras they used were wide enough to capture that, so you're actually seeing like almost like 180 degrees around the plane, and I haven't done that yet, but I definitely want to. Like I will see this a couple times in theaters because it's an experience. Like if you ever wanted to be convinced of Dolby Atmos as a sound surround system, like this thing rocks. It's really, really good. It's probably the best thing I've seen all year.
Wow.
Certainly the best mainstream.
The most shocked I have been.
Like it's this and Everything Everywhere All at Once are the 2 best things I've seen all year. And they're 2 very different films.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely see this and see it in a theater if you're somewhere you feel comfortable being in a theater in the middle of our plague year 3 here.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's really
I have
good.
not been this shocked by a piece of entertainment in probably a decade.
I'm not. I mean, I knew the buzz on this was really positive.
Oh, well, I didn't
back
see any
a
of
year
that.
ago. I mean, people were seeing versions of this back in like early 2020.
Oh.
I know one guy who saw it in 2019 has just been sitting on it since then.
Isn't this the movie where he like had the big blow up over COVID protocols? Or was
no, that was
movie?
Mission Impossible.
Oh, okay.
This was shot before the pandemic. In fact, there's a couple shots of license plates that expire in 2020, which is funny. But no, it's really, really good. Shockingly good.
Wow. It's amazing. It's crazy. Okay, let's see what else we got. Grimshaw rocks. Does Nintendo keep with motion controls for the next couple of consoles or come up with something new and unexpected? Yes, I think...
I think you have to stick with motion controls because otherwise everything doesn't carry forward.
But I think they're always going to have motion controls.
Yeah, but they may come up with something new on top of that.
Both, yeah. That's my answer too. It's both. I think they'll try to come up with something new. Whether they do or not, who knows? But I think motion controls, I think that's just going to be a thing for Nintendo consoles maybe forever. Mm-hmm. Until it gets to the point where they have a VR console and they have finger tracking and stuff like that. Yeah, I just think it's to Matt's point, it doesn't want all its old games to become unplayable. Mm-hmm. I think that's why we saw with the Switch, the Joy-Cons have gyros in them because they want to be able to keep perpetuating that software.
Yeah,
so.
And they did some clearly that wasn't their focus. Like the whole HD Rumble motion that has not really been a focus for them.
Yeah,
on their stuff.
It only seemed like a big deal until they actually launched it, and then it's just no, that stuff wasn't all that important.
Yeah, little thing, like the Ring Fit and there's things. The big gimmick stuff does it, but generally, using a Pro controller on their mainstream releases has not been an issue.
Yep. Congrim 1, any predictions or hopes for the state of play in a couple days? I think they're saying a lot of PlayStation VR 2 stuff.
Yeah.
Does that excite you?
No. I mean, I'm curious what they'll have on it, if they're going to show games or if they're just going to show the headset and say, here it is. I'd be interested more in the software because I think we kind of know the specs at this point.
Yep. We know everything about PSVR 2.
I'd like to see some Forspoken something just because since it was supposed to come out 2 weeks ago, it'd be nice to dig into that a little bit. I know it's Square, not them, but they seem to be involved. It's kind of an exclusive, timed exclusive at least.
It doesn't seem like any first-party stuff is going to be there.
Probably not.
Sony was third parties and PSVR. Well, there'll be some first-party stuff for that. But.
Yeah, there's obviously the contingent that fervently believes we're going to see Final Fantasy 16, but they've been saying that for a year. At various,
I think that's highly likely.
Possible
that we'll see new Final Fantasy 16.
I hope everyone's ready for that to be next year. There's people that really adamantly believe that's coming this fall.
Well, Square Enix just said again that it's done. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So who knows? They said that last year.
They said that last year too, yeah.
Apparently
and the director promised that we'd see it by the end of the year and then nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So who knows? But I think we might see that. I think we'll probably see the Horizon PlayStation VR 2 game. It's going to be its big killer app. So I think we got a teaser trailer for that already. I think we'll probably see the first real trailer of it where you actually get to get a look at it. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to check out the PlayStation VR 2 stuff.
Yeah, I'll look at it. I mean, I don't know. You're going to really need something to convince me.
But third parties could be anything.
Alex port would go a long way.
Yeah. There might be a new Saints Row trailer or maybe a chunk of Saints Row gameplay. Some stuff like that. But, I mean, this year, it's kind of barren. There's not a lot left. So I would set my expectations to disappoint because I don't think it's going to be a big blowout with a bunch of exclusive
set your
stuff.
expectations meh.
Yeah.
I would say the same for that Microsoft event.
Really?
On the 12th. Yeah, I don't think
I would not.
I would. I think you're going to be.
I hope you're wrong. But we'll be here live to do that, by the way. That's in not this Sunday, but next Sunday. We'll be here. We'll be doing the only E3 press conference we've got. Yeah. We'll do a pre-show where we make our predictions. We'll sit and watch the Xbox press conference live with you guys, putting commentary over top of it, and then we'll deliver our analysis afterwards for the only press conference for E3 2022. But we're going to do it for you guys. Mm-hmm. Sneaky is saying that the rundown for the state of play leaked.
Oh, yeah?
Okay, well, let's see what it is then. I'm assuming he followed up down here somewhere with everything.
Don't be so sure.
Last of Us Remake. Is that...
Oh, yeah, that's been floating around. That's right.
So was that in the leak, or...?
I don't know, but people have been talking about that, yeah, that there's going to be a full remake.
Yeah, I don't see anyone listing the stuff that was in the leak. Sneaky, can you put what was in the leak in chat? That would be awesome, man. Yeah. Dan Boy says he watched it in IMAX and it was fantastic. I could see where it would be. Okay, we got a bunch of them. Oh, and he's saying it's too good to be true, which means it's probably not true, Sneaky. Gohan Rage, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. That's awesome. Mitchell is alive. Any well-received games that you just couldn't get into because of their setting?
Setting.
That's very specific.
Not that I can think of.
The Infamous games, maybe.
That's right. You hate Seattle.
Yeah. I don't really hate Seattle. But the settings for those games just always kind of turn me off for some reason.
Yeah, I can think of aesthetics.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the prototype games because I think they're gross looking.
They are gross looking. That's why it was a good guess, though, when someone guessed that and named that game.
I think the second prototype's a good game, but it just makes me feel like I need a shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't really think of it. I mean, like a military setting doesn't do a whole lot for me at this point.
Yeah.
There's a I do like high fantasy stuff, but like there's a point at which it becomes so generic I don't care. But that's mostly like a mobile game thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not common.
Yeah, it's not very common. Settings have also become kind of redundant, I believe.
Yeah, like theming is more like I wouldn't like I'm always gonna look sideways at like a pirate game because there just aren't a lot of good pirate games.
Well, also pirate games are generally just stuck on a boat in the middle of the water, so I could see where that setting in particular might turn you off.
You gotta make the boat entertaining, and it's hard to make a boat entertaining.
You don't have a lot of real estate to work with there. Yeah. No. Okay. Before we get on with the rest of Q&A, here's a word from our sponsor. A once-in-a-lifetime property is now available in northwest Montana, featuring 92 acres of gorgeous wilderness, approximately 1 mile along the Blue Ribbon, trout-rated Kootenai River, and an eye-popping view of the Cabernet Mountain Wilderness area. This is truly an outdoorsman's paradise. You can use the restored and remodeled barn with living quarters as a year-round home, vacation cabin, fishing retreat, horse ranch, or cattle ranch. Contact Doug DeShazer today for additional pictures, information, and an opportunity to view this very special piece of Montana. And with interest rates starting to rise, now is the time to pull the trigger on a home or property. Even if you're not able to relocate to Montana, worry not, sifters. Doug DeShazer has facilitated home and land sales in California, Texas, Oregon, Washington, and many other states. He can find you the perfect real estate agent for the job, no matter where you live in the U.S. Feel free to contact Doug with any questions regarding real estate at deshazermt@gmail.com or give him a call at 406-291-1643. That's 406-291-1643. All right, let's wrap up the show with a couple more questions. As always, go at Sifted Games in the chat so we can pluck it out of all the rest of your conversation. It looks like Sneaky now is admitting that it's probably fake. The rundown for the state of play. Estmont, Matt, do you think the Stranger Things Season 4 answers were good?
I don't know. I haven't watched that.
I watched it. Most of it.
My movie night group was gonna do watch it on Saturday, and the day before everyone just went, we don't want to, and just didn't.
Yeah.
So I think some people watched the first few episodes. I could not possibly care less about that show at this point.
You weren't a huge fan of it to begin with.
No, I've never particularly liked it that much, and at this point I just feel like it's past its shelf date for me. And it's so just what they put up just now is 9 hours. And the next part is going to be like two 2-hour movies basically.
Yeah.
It's not just 2 episodes. I do not believe I've seen the other 3 seasons. I do not believe for 1 second the Duffer Brothers have 14 hours of story to tell me here. I don't know when I will be ready to sit down and watch that. I don't care.
I'll
stick with Obi-Wan and I'm fine. I don't need a 14-hour show that has spent 3 seasons and 6 years proving they don't actually know where they're going. So I like a lot of the characters. I like a lot of the actors, but it's just not worth the hassle at this point to me.
I've watched the first 4.5 episodes, I think, of this new season. I am a huge fan of Stranger Things. In fact, I loved it up until this point. The first 2 episodes of the new season almost made me quit watching. I'll be honest with you. The new character that they introduced, Eddie, is awful. He's like a cartoon character in the midst of all these other people that I've grown to an attachment to over the last several seasons of Stranger Things. He just doesn't fit, and it's like, where has he been? He's like their best friend all of a sudden, and he hasn't been in any other shows. Why? Where was he this whole time? He's like their dungeon master, basically, but he's also like the metalhead in school, the dude who drew like the dragons on his notebook or whatever. He's that guy. And then, like, when they introduce him in this scene in the cafeteria, it's like, it's just completely implausible and unbelievable. And he also looks like he's 30 years old.
Yeah, a lot of the age thing is...
It's a problem.
If you're going to do this show, you had to get it done and faster. You know, like Harry Potter did, where they did one a year, and it outpaced the age a little bit. But like, you had 20-year-olds playing 18-year-olds by the end of the Harry Potter movies. But like, this is 20-somethings
playing 16-year-olds.
A couple of these guys are,
and it's just normal in life that certain people look older quicker than others, but.
But it's like if you're going to do the 80s thing where you cast a bunch of 20-somethings as teenagers, you can do that, but you have to cast a group that all looks like that together.
Right.
And now you've had these kids that have aged differently.
Yeah.
And they don't like look right together.
They don't look like they're the same age.
Yeah. Even though some of them are, but like it just doesn't hang anymore.
The one girl has wrinkles on her face, and she's supposed to be 16. It's like,
I mean, people age different, but like it's like, that's the thing, is like 6 years later, if you were doing Stranger Things, you'd cast different for these characters, and you can't change it obviously, but you're gonna run into that, or you're gonna wait until everybody's a full adult and come back to it like It style,
Yeah. And I don't want to spoil anything because a lot of people probably haven't even watched the first episode, but there's one whole plot line that is just pointless. Like,
sounds like Stranger Things to me.
I mean, it's just like it's 30% of the show that's set in this other place, and there's no reason for it.
Yeah, you got to have a really good reason to leave Hawkins in this show.
Oh, there's 3 places, by the way. They all leave Hawkins.
I know that at the end of the last season, there's a diaspora kind of thing.
Yeah, they all split.
Yeah, and I knew that was going to be a problem for them.
And it is.
But
yeah, and look, so the first 2 episodes really turned me off. I did stick with it. The next 2.5 episodes were better. And so I probably will finish it, but so far for me, it's the worst of all the Stranger Things seasons. That's my opinion. But maybe the last couple episodes it gets redeemed. I don't know. Just based upon what I've watched so far, it is the worst season.
A long way to go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It reminds me of when Stephen King no longer had to listen to his editor.
Oh, that leak is definitely wrong. Now people are starting to list what it was. It's like Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 9 Remake, Avatar on PlayStation VR. Yeah, I think that leak is aiming really high.
I guess we might see Avatar 2.
I think we'll see Ubisoft's Avatar.
Yeah, that Ubisoft Avatar game.
Yeah, because I think that's coming out like this year.
It's supposed to be alongside the movie in December.
Yeah. Matt, when would you say they last progressed the Upside Down plot?
Like the 3rd episode of the first season?
I don't know why you guys are asking Matt all these Stranger Things questions. He just told you he doesn't like it, and he hasn't really watched it.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched them. Yeah. Not the new season, but yeah, I don't think we've learned anything new about the Upside Down since about the 3rd episode of the first season.
Yeah,
and I hope they get it right. But even the people that I know that it's like I like it are like, oh, they're really setting up the last season. I'm like, they've been setting up the next season for 3 seasons now. Can you just do something, please?
I mean, what I've seen so far, I mean, for me to answer Mike's Q's question, I don't even feel like this season really explains much more about it. I mean, I feel like I already had it figured out. Like, I don't feel like I was confused on it. I don't know. People keep saying that.
I just don't understand what so what is it? What does it do? What's the point? Why are they studying it? What do they think the military implications of it would be? Like, why are they doing any of
that type of stuff? I thought he was asking, like, how it works. And
I don't care about how it works. It's magic, basically. But I just, like, why does this project exist? What are they trying to do? Like, what are they, like... Why does the government think this is valuable to them? Are they trying... Because it doesn't... I don't understand what the thing is happening for.
The things that come from that place are very powerful.
Right. Well, stop opening the fucking door then.
Well, I think they want to tame it. They want to use it militarily or whatever.
How? It's a giant demon. They don't seem to have any plan for that. I guess the plan was, like, use these psychic kids, but they don't seem to have done a very good job of that.
Yes. Cinetite brings up Better Call Saul, which is absolutely freaking amazing. I hate this new here's the first half of the season, now wait a month and a half, and here's the second half of the season. That's been a thing for the last couple years. They just did it with Better Call Saul. They left it on a terrible cliffhanger. That show is so amazing. If you're not watching Better Call Saul, go and watch the first few seasons on Netflix. They're all there right now, and then start watching the new season. It is amazing. Across the board, everything about it is incredible. You want to talk about little things that you think is insignificant in early episodes getting payoffs later on. That is Better Call Saul. The writer of that show, I believe, is a genius and probably could have cured cancer if he decided to do something else besides make TV. He's that good. Zumba Fu with Crack Bros. I love your name. Your thoughts on Love, Death, and Robots. It was great. Did you watch that?
No, not the new season.
Okay. It's great. It's really good. The worst thing about that show is that it's over so damn fast because they're all shorts. They're all like 15 to like 17 minutes long. And they're just all amazing. And I always get to the end and I'm like, dang, is that it? Like, I thought it was great. I love the new season. You should definitely check that out too. Love, Sex, and Robots. It's really good. Dan Boy says the Ozark ending was disappointing. I would agree with you on that, Dan Boy. I was disappointed in how they wrapped that show up. Not even just the last like episode or two where you got like who's going to live and who's going to die and the final scenes and all that kind of stuff. The whole last season I felt was not up to scratch with the rest of Ozark. It was still really good. But the ending in particular, like the last episode when you figure out who lives and who dies, that was just dirty. Because I had hoped, and again, I don't want to ruin anything for people who haven't seen it, there were a couple characters in that show that I had hoped would get spin-off shows where they would be the lead character in a new show. Kind of like what they're doing with like Game of Thrones a little bit now. Trying to keep it alive without just doing the same show again. And a lot of the people of the characters that I really hoped would get their own shows, they're not getting their own shows. I'm not going to say why, but they're not going to get them. And so I was disappointed in a lot of reasons with Ozark at the end. But the overall ride of Ozark was amazing. Like up until that last season, I really thought it was one of the best TV shows I've ever watched. So, okay, I think that's it. We answered all your questions because we got done a little earlier today. Let's see. We'll be back here next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. We're here every Tuesday. We'll have some more games to talk about. Mm-hmm. Diablo Immortal's coming out soon, people. You can preload it right now. So you might want to get on that. That comes out on the 2nd, so in like 2 or 3 days. We'll be talking about that. There's another couple games coming out this week. I think for the next month, we're actually going to have plenty of games to talk about. We're going to have E3 and Summer Game Fest to talk about. I think the next month of shows are going to be excellent, and I hope you're along for the ride. If you're listening to this show on any of the podcast services, or if you're watching it on YouTube, please head to patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD. And drop us a pledge. If you pledge at $4 or more per month, you get all our content early. That's GameFace, that's Pactor Factor. It's all our specials and all our features. It's our new show, New Dimension, 2D to 3D. It's Dossier, our rundown of games to buy every month. It's Ask Shane Anything. You get everything. $4 a month, you get it all early. You don't have to wait for the delay on YouTube. And if you want to get stuff like Pactor Factor early and you just want to help us out, you can also use Twitch Prime. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you just link your accounts between Amazon and Twitch, and then you subscribe to our channel. That gives us a free $2.50 a month. You have to re-up it every month. If you're always wondering why I'm saying thank you for Twitch Prime, that's it. People are subscribing. Signing up the first time, kind of a pain in the butt, but the instructions below in the description on YouTube are very easy to follow. And once you're set up, it's literally 2 clicks to resubscribe every month. We'd really, really appreciate it. We really need the help financially. So I think that's it, man, for 302. It was a good show. It was good to talk about some games again, finally, instead of just having to talk about random topics that were hot for the week. But again, we'll see you guys next Tuesday right here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. We'll see you then. GameFace is up and out.